New York, Queens. On Langdon Street, where every inch of land is precious, a handsome young man is drinking tea on the second floor of a small jewelry store. Lin Tian, who traveled to this Marvel world a few years ago, created a business legendary on Wall Street with his own hands. But a move by Iron Man and S.H.I.E.L.D. wiped out all his savings. The employees died, the company went bankrupt, and no compensation was received. That thing made him understand. Want to really survive in this dangerous place of Marvel, money. Useless. It still depends on strength. And today is the end of his system loading countdown. The system is loaded and you get the God of Creation system. As long as you have enough creation crystals, you can create and modify the fantasy events, characters, items, and creations in your mind in the real world. Crystals are not the same. It turned out to be the Chuangshi God system. Lin Tian, who liked to read in Wang's articles in his previous life, naturally understands this. The God of Creation system, as the name suggests, is as powerful as the God of Creation. It can create the world, modify the world, fabricate the world, and create everything that is impossible, unreasonable, or non-existent through your own thinking. As long as there is enough crystallization, he can create the event of the coming of the fool of the ancient gods. Create the event of the wolf tribe Eritero fighting against the source of darkness in Yankin. Create an all-out war event between the Emperor and the Archons. In the authority he is the only God, above all rules. Moreover, the created plots and characters can be changed and controlled by him at will. Lin Tian put down his teacup, a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Create something big. I like. But before that, he had to look at the rules obtained by the creation crystal. The creation crystal is the key to making everything. Reminder. The way to obtain the creation crystal is to collect various emotions of human beings, including positive emotions and negative emotions. Increasing the strength of the lawful camp can maintain the existing balance by condensing a large number of creation crystals. Lin Tian suddenly understood. It is equivalent to the balance of light and darkness in Jackie Chan's adventures. He, the creator god, is playing the way of balance. In this way, he not only needs to create a chaotic camp, but also a lawful camp. Only through the confrontation between the two sides can he obtain more creation crystals. Lin Tian narrowed his eyes. He needs a stage, a big stage. With a slight thought, he selected a target. Next, let the world see the power of the creator god. First create a small explosion event, and make a small shock. Lin Tian closed his eyes and started calling the creation system. During his deduction, he is completely protected by the system, and no one can interfere with him. Create. A picture gradually appeared in Lin Tian's mind, and a huge amounts of creature gradually became clear. And in his hand, a broken arrow gradually appeared. On the system. -20 -150 -30. At night in New York, the sky is full of stars. Iron Man Tony is entertaining corporate shareholders, high society, and politicians to celebrate Stark Industries' big harvest this year. Although a war broke out with Hydra, destroying a large amount of infrastructure of Merly Sword. But Stark Industries' weapons orders skyrocketed instead, making him a fortune. Especially Iron Man's Stark Industrial Defense System was extremely impressive in the last performance. This time Mei Lijian's National Defense heard that Stark was going to sell this interception system, so they hurriedly sent people to this banquet, and wanted to buy a few sets back. Buy a home edition. After all, in such a dangerous world, who wouldn't want their family to be safe? At the scene full of drone models and equipment, Tony excitedly introduced various equipment under the transparent glass behind him. These are the home defense systems launched by our Stark Industries. They are specially equipped with at least 13 defensive weapons, 10 drones, and the most advanced infrared system and scanning system. Even if a fly flies in, it will be killed. The system identifies males and females, and under the protection of this system, you will be absolutely safe. Let me demonstrate to everyone. At the beginning of the banquet, a mosquito was put in. I hope everyone didn't shoot him to death. Please rest assured that today's guests are all on the invitation list. If the system finds that no one has been invited people, it will sound the alarm, and then attack. Jarvis, start the scanning function. Just after Tony finished speaking, dozens of red lasers suddenly appeared in various areas of the room, scanning everything in the air, and in just a second, those red lights instantly locked on a target. I found the target. Just when Tony was about to say the attack, Jarvis broke out again. Discover target 2. Then, discover target 3. Finding target 4. Find target 20. Scalp numb. How can there be so many targets? See Jarvis lock on to the ground, walls, and even your own back. He really panicked. Panic plus 150 from Tony Stark. Ah, it was actually discovered. It seems that you are not very good at hiding abilities. The crowd automatically gets out of the way. A young man of about 20 was sitting at the table. There were stitches all over his body and face. Blue has medium-length hair, combed into 3 strands. The right strand of hair hangs in front of his shoulders, his right eye is gray, and his left eye is blue. It looks very evil. In the surrounding darkness, more than 24 shadow ninjas wearing black ninja costumes emerged from the ground. Really, if that Master Dio hadn't asked me to cooperate with you this time, I would have been able to complete the mission and release those guys by myself. A little girl of Queen Fan stepped out of the place where the shadow army was swarming. Black dress, evil smile, a pair of purple pupils, like a devil. Tony also emerged with 2 ninjas holding a knife to his ass. You. What do you want to do? How can you hold someone's butt with a knife? The first time Tony met this perverted ninja, Tony was really scared. Fear from Tony Stark plus 250, just at the moment. The ground shook suddenly. The partygoers looked up at the crumbling lights on the ceiling above them. Next moment, the whole building suddenly tilted, as if it had collapsed, which made other people panic. Did it suddenly collapse? And Tony. I won't slip my hands. These banquet guests panicked and wanted to run away. But the man named Zhenran stretched his arms and jumped off the table. Everyone, where do you want to go? Get out of here. I'm leaving. A bald greasy man who was hugging his girlfriend yelled coldly. He was an insurance tycoon. The real person just smiled and touched the greasy man in front of him with his hand. No way? Next second, the greasy man's body swelled up. As if injected with gas, red sarcoid tumors bulged one after another on his chest, face, back, and legs. The people around were frightened by the tragedy and retreated again and again. Not sure what happened to him, but the instinctive reaction was to run back, avoiding him like the plague. And the greasy man stretched out his hand, wanting someone to save him. But his miserable state, who dares to approach him? Tony wanted to activate Jarvis secretly, but the Shadow Legion seemed to understand his mind, and the tip of the knife pushed in a little bit. Tony quickly tightened his buttocks, clamped the opponent's knife, and then raised his hand high. Don't, nothing moved. Fear from Tony Stark plus 300, destroy all the equipment around me. The Dark Queen Xiaoyu spoke. The surrounding Shadow Legion chose to do it without any hesitation. Use speed and agility to take down Iron Man's home defenses on display. He didn't speak an order to attack, the devices only locked onto the target. And the others can only watch from the sidelines now, watching She Stark's defenses be dismantled. As for the greasy man who was transformed by a real person, the newly sprouted sarcoma gradually occupied the position of his head, and his limbs were completely covered by sarcoma. He who was standing on the ground lost his bones with a bang, and fell to the ground, turned into a disgusting slug lying on the ground covered with tumors, wriggling on the ground. The sarcomas engulfed the menacing eyeballs. Immediately after, caries similar to venom grew under the eyes. And at the place where he was swallowed, a big mouth longer than his arm grew out, and beside it grew 6 hands that looked like centipedes side by side, grabbing his female companion. Go away, go away. Greasy guy's female partner yelling, stomping on those slimy arms with high heels. But the man who had been transformed into a curse spirit no longer had self-awareness, only endless hunger. He grabbed the woman with 6 arms, and then opened his huge mouth, swallowing the woman mercilessly, and amputating the woman at the waist with his sharp teeth. Pop, pop, pop. Even if you close your eyes, the cruel scene is still vivid in your mind, and the sound of chewing makes all the people present feel horrified. Some people were so scared that they wet their pants on the spot. It's so scary. People from the Ministry of Defense hide behind the crowd and send a message to the army, asking for support. The agent hiding in the crowd also sent the same distress signal to S.H.I.E.L.D., which will be broadcast live at the same time. The real person touched the monster twisted by him, and greeted the others with a smile. Everyone, please allow me to introduce you. You can call me Taoist. I am a super-level curse spirit. The ability is to transform the soul of the touched object into a curse spirit. This process is irreversible. In order to collect emotions more conveniently, Lin Tian transformed some spells into something that even common people can see. Hearing the other party's words, Iron Man Tony was shocked. Stunt spell? What is that? According to him, that man's soul was transformed into a monster. Hiss. A means of manipulating the soul, still can't reverse? What kind of terrifying devil power is that? If you become like that. Don't talk about picking up girls, it's fine if you don't get hunted down. Thinking about being touched by that person, his soul was twisted into that kind of monster, and he couldn't recover. Tony felt a chill behind his back. You must never touch him, stay away, you must stay away from him. Fear from Tony Stark plus 250, fear from Edrus plus 13. Fear from the Tower Ross Carl plus 25, shield. Tricurve wing building. Nick Fury looked at the screen from the agent. The bottom of my heart is incomparably horrified. That person just touched the other person lightly, and the other person turned into a monster. Moreover, what is modified is the soul, which cannot be reversed by other means. That's even more dangerous. When did such a dangerous person appear in this world? Shock plus 100 from Nick Fury, shock from Hill plus 100. Shock plus 20 from Magenta. Nick Fury issued an order. Have you found any information about these people? Director Nick, we have compared the database, but we have not found any records of these two people. So what's the purpose of these two people? I don't know for now, but it doesn't look like it's for revenge. Nick Fury slammed the table. Damn fuck. When did this force appear in New York? Immediately send agents to take action. Stark's banquet is the most important people in the world. If they all turn into monsters, then the world is in chaos. Just by being touched by him, it will be twisted into a monster. Who knows the consequences of letting him go? After Nick gave the order, Hill's face became more serious. Because she received another message about Stark Industries. Hill quickly turned the computer to Nick, and replayed the screen he had just seen. Director Nick, you'd better take a look at this video first. Hill clicked on the video, a gorilla magnified hundreds of times. At the moment it's rampaging towards the Stark building. On the road, whether it was vehicles, roads, or streetlights, they were all shot flying by him. Mare fuck, such a big orangutan. Why didn't anyone find out in advance? I don't know, it seems to have appeared suddenly, but it can be seen that it has an inexplicable hatred for the Stark building. If this orangutan is allowed to climb up the building, it may kill those who participated in the banquet with a single slap. Hearing what Agent Hill said, Nick knew the situation was more urgent. Action. Contact the local police now. And the military, stop it. The military also received the information and responded immediately. An army was sent to suppress it. As they can see, there is indeed a gorilla downstairs, roaring angrily, climbing towards the Stark building. Inside the Stark building, the curse spirit that had swallowed the woman began to move quickly towards the crowd again. No one dared to get close to the Shadow Legion, let alone the real person. You can only approach the edge of the building. But that curse spirit obviously has no legs, but its speed is like a ghost. While everyone was screaming, the bulletproof glass outside was suddenly hit by a huge amount of palm, and the people near the window were instantly smashed by the shattered glass, and even the curse spirit was shattered in an instant. It's just frightening that the shattered spell healed instantly. Even if the curse spirit transformed by me is broken into 100,000 parts, it will recover instantly and devour evolution. Seeing this scene, Tony was horrified. This thing can't be killed? It seemed to be exactly what he said. After eating the woman just now, the body of the orangutan became bigger. Then a gorilla, magnified hundreds of times, looked at the real person with anger. Roar. My God, God help. There is a curse spirit in the house, and there is a monster outside the house, help me. Some people were frightened into soft-legged shrimp. Some were incontinent in fright. Some people yelled desperately, but were swallowed by the curse spirit. Desperation instantly enveloped everyone. Gain desperate mood plus 20. Get Tony Stark's tension plus 200. In a panic, Tony saw Pepper in the crowd being approached by a real person, and he suddenly became nervous. The hand of a real person can twist others. He didn't want Pepper twisted into a monster like that. Get Tony Stark's tension plus 500. On the other side, Lin Tien, who observed the soaring negative emotions, smiled slightly. Found the object of the fleece. The plot continues to advance. Shenren looked at the huge monster outside with a smile on his face. You gorilla is really fast? You want to save that girl, don't you? As he spoke, he took out a dry scarecrow in his hand. He re-twisted into a girl's appearance, and then retracted, revealing an evil face. If I turn everyone into scarecrows, can you tell the difference? Saying that, he stretched out his left hand to Pepper. No. Stop. Tony's eyes widened, bloodshot. Anger from Tony Stark plus 1000. Just when the real person was about to touch Pepper and Tony felt hopeless, a pale green light hit the real person's hand and knocked the real person back. Don't be afraid. Dad is here. Suddenly, a large group of people jumped out from the corner. Seeing that Pepper was fine, Tony had a look of complete relief on his face. Excitement from Tony Stark plus 250. Xiao Yu, you've gotten into trouble again. Xiao Yu. Who are you calling Xiao Yu? You want to call me the Queen of Darkness? Xiao Yu, the Queen of Darkness, hugged her shoulders and issued an order coldly to the real person. Real person, hurry up and finish the work. Master Dio didn't ask you to come and play. Quickly transform it. open the island of demons, Skull Island, and realize the landing of Master Dio. Heaven's plan. As soon as Xiao Yu's words fell, Tony felt a sudden pain behind him, as if his ass was being pulled by a knife. It turned out that the two shadow legions who were holding him were sent flying by a man with a big nose. Negative emotions from Tony Stark plus 200. You're welcome. Uncle Long smiled at Tony. You are welcome. I am polite to you. Negative emotions from Tony Stark plus 100. Tony resisted the pain, but he didn't expect to get his butt slit in the end. At the moment's Iron Man battlesuit is still in its infancy, and it will take some time for them to flight. Bright lights appeared outside, like falling meteors. That's Iron Man's batch armor. The arrival of this battle armor is too slow, and it needs to be improved faster. The arm guard and breastplate were the first to break through the window and hit the ninja of the Shadow Legion. Then stick them on Tony's body one by one. After Iron Man was fully dressed, he rushed into the battlefield without checking his butt injury first, holding Pepper away from the battlefield. Put her in the back of the hall where it is safer. Jarvis, activate the guard area and keep her safe. Tony, watch out. Tony nodded. Then he rushed towards Dad and rejoined the battlefield. Iron Man, who rejoined the battlefield, looked at the real person and Uncle Long with anger. No thanks, it's what I should do. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Negative emotions from Tony Stark plus 100. Then he looked at the white-haired old man with glasses holding a puffer fish. Positive emotions from Tony Stark plus 50. The real person on the opposite side saw the father coming, with a gentle smile on his face. Dad, you are so old, you should take a good rest. You bastard, with Dad here, you don't even want to break the outer seal of Skull Island. The real person met a person, and that person instantly became a growing vine, blocking the two of them. Why can't you untie it? There are so many gods there, you see. I just got a spell on the battlefield. I only have a little bit of power, and if I get that kind of powerful power, how great will I become? The presence. You're crazy. Daddy, it looks like Dad has to wake you up. Listening to the conversation between the two, Tony was extremely shocked. Skull Island. Where is that? The real person in front of him just got an item from Skull Island, and it became so terrifying. If there is a more terrifying existence there. Father, don't waste your energy in vain. Cursed spirits can only be killed by special methods, and larger creatures are more terrifying after being transformed into cursed spirits. What I transformed just now were only some sea-level common curses. Spirit, and the only child of the guardian of Skull Island is born. What do you think will happen? When you see a real person, you have to do it. The old man's face changed drastically, and even Uncle Long's expression became extremely solemn. The old man hurriedly shouted, "Quick, stop him, don't let him do anything to little King Kong. If something happens to the Watchman's child, once the Watchman leaves Skull Island, the monsters around Skull Island will revive all over the world." Recovery? Tony couldn't care about anything else. At this moment, he had no choice but to trust his father. The SHIELD agent, who has been broadcasting live, also received the information. Skull Island. Cursed Spirit. Watcher. It was the first time they had heard these secrets. But at the moment they had to find a way to save the gorilla. Judging from the current situation, whether it was successfully transformed by a real person or seriously injured by a human being, both could lead to the so-called Asgardian Skull Island. And the real person in front of him just got an item from Skull Island, and it was already so terrifying. What would happen if Skull Island were unblocked? They can't imagine it at all. Now, they can only prepare for the worst. Nick Fury. What's going on in New York? What are the military and the police department doing now? Oops, the military is going to use Tomahawk missiles to kill King Kong. Mom F***K. Nick Fury at the moment wanted to slap the table and curse. Everyone has said it. Attacking Donkey Kong now may bring out Asgardians. As a result, these military forces wanted to bomb King Kong. What the hell do you think is a biohazard? Thinking of bombing everything you see. Negative emotions from Nick Fury plus 100. Hill agent comforted. Don't worry, maybe the military doesn't know about it. Nick Fury thought for a moment. It is also possible. The reason why they know what's going on inside is because their agent is streaming internally, so they know what's going on inside. But it is possible that the military just knew about the monster attacking New York, not the reason. Thinking of this, Nick Fury said to his agent, "Give me access to the military, I want to speak to General Rob." The military did only receive news of a monster invasion, plus, their people were dead, and they didn't know what happened inside. And there is only one fact before us. That is, a terrifying gorilla has indeed appeared and is attacking the Stark building. Therefore, after the military found that common weapons could not deal with this monster, they ordered the use of Tomahawk missiles to directly kill the gorilla. This minimizes losses. Combat Laboratory. General Rob, SHIELD is calling. Come here. Rob was monitoring the footage of the monster in New York in real time. The huge amounts of orangutan demolish buildings very quickly, and it was difficult for Common's bullets to cause any damage to his body. The helicopter in the sky fired heavy machine gun bullets as if to tickle it. After receiving a call from Director Nick, say, I don't have time to chat right now. Stop the Tomahawk missiles you're about to fire. What do you mean? We have received information. If the missile you launch kills that gorilla, something more terrifying will happen next. Skeleton. Snort. Rob hung up the phone directly. Scolded a neuropathy. Now the monster is right in front of you, you tell me not to blow up the monster? You say it won't blow up if you don't blow it up. Do you think you are the president? General Rob, are you going to kill that gorilla? Isn't that nonsense? Immediately launch the first round of 10 Tomahawk missiles, targeting the gorilla in New York. The operation is code-named Operation Star Destroyer. Rob's goal is to kill the monster in front of him. Just in case, he sent a special force to kill the gorilla completely, so that the opponent would have no counterattack. SHIELD, Tricurved Wing Building. Nick Fury, Madam Falk. Hill Agent. Maybe things are not that bad. These are just their one-sided words. Maybe it won't happen at all. We haven't heard of Skull Island in these years. We SHIELD have been involved in regions all over the world, even the mysterious Delta, we've all been there. But can you guarantee that it really won't happen? New York, Stark Building. The surrounding open space was originally a favorite park for night runners, but at the moment, the park was full of dust, and stones were thrown everywhere. In this chaotic place, Black Widow Natasha Romanoff rushed to the scene first. Looking at the huge orangutan above the sky, who is demolishing the Stark Industrial Building, she at the moment has no good idea. She wouldn't want to fight that gorilla, would she? So she teams up with Captain America Steve, and with him rescues these wounded civilians. Just when she noticed that a brick of the size of the roof fell from the sky and hit her, she hurriedly and subconsciously protected the 2 little girls under her. Rumble. She felt something lift up behind her. She quickly looked back. A black stone pillar was suddenly drilled from the ground, resisting the falling stones from the sky. Immediately afterwards, she saw a young man in white and black trousers passing by her, a windy man. Did he help? Positive emotions from Natasha Romanoff +20. Pojun, we have to hurry up. The dark-haired man behind him struggled to catch up with the man in front, calling Po Jun's name. Po Jun turned around and looked at the long-haired man in a black suit behind him. Tanlang, you are sure you can copy his ability? Dr. V just woke you up not long ago. Greedy Wolf responded loudly while running. Don't worry, Po Jun. Don't forget that my god's right hand can copy and store 3 other people's abilities. Even if a real person twists Little King Kong into a monster, I just need to copy if he has his ability. Then I have 10 minutes to completely restore Little King Kong. Don't forget. This time to stop the evil god from Skull Island, even Sister Kang Yu came. If that's the case, I'm relieved. Your Black Moon Iron Cavalry is really reliable, but if Sister Kang Yu comes, then there probably won't be any problems, right? The content of the chat between the two shocked Natasha Romanoff's heart. Listen to the words of the two. They came to save the orangutan too. It seems to be a mysterious organization, so they should be regarded as teammates on the same front. Before coming, Natasha Romanoff had already received news of this mission from SHIELD. Know in advance who they are going to deal with. That special curse spirit named Taoist, as long as it is touched by the opponent, its soul will be distorted into a monster, and it cannot be restored. This method is simply unimaginably terrifying. After all, the soul is born and invisible, but he can modify people's souls. The thought of others touching her soul made her feel like ants were crawling all over her body. But now, some people say that they can copy the ability of a real person, and twist the twisted soul of a real person back. Doesn't this mean there is an opportunity to save those who transform? Positive emotions from Natasha Romanoff +70. Natasha Romanoff was very excited and followed directly behind without hesitation. And ready to report the good news to SHIELD. But the real people in the Stark Industries building have touched the gorilla. On the 2nd floor of the jewelry store, Lin Tian smiled at the world. Everything has begun. Little King Kong threw his fist full of anger towards the real person. But the moment Little King Kong's fist touched the real person, it stopped. Huge amounts of King Kong at the moment, but when facing a real person, there is a desperate fear. In its eyes, it seemed to see Death God, condescendingly looking down at it, waving a sickle towards it, cruelly cutting wounds one after another on its fragile body, and then sewing the body randomly with needles and threads. It twists into a monster. Roar. Pain, despair. Little King Kong's roar made the hearts of those present tremble. It was like a scream before dying, in a trance. Everyone heard another mournful roar responding to him. That voice seemed to come from a distant time and space. Palpitating. Trembling. The old man held the dried pufferfish and looked out the window with a heavy expression. Father has an ominous premonition. Iron Man Tony also heard that mournful voice, which directly penetrated the air and entered the depths of his soul. He seems to have seen the gold canyon under the setting sun, a little King Kong helplessly calling to an orangutan as huge as Targon, asking for help. And Targon responded tremblingly, making a mournful sound. Targon was on the verge of falling, and stood up shaking. Only then did he see it. It turned out that it wasn't a mountain, it was just an orangutan sitting on the ground. Because it's so huge, it sits for too long, and it's covered in dirt and trees. There were clattering sounds all around, and the iron chains thicker than a building were tied to islands, and then they sank deep into the ground, and there was a rumbling sound under the ground. One after another, terrifying monsters that could not be watched roared and hit the earth's crust, and then was suppressed by Targon Peak. Dad said Asgardian? Could it be the giant orangutan on that mountain? Tony felt a chill go down his spine straight to his brain. Devil's Island, the suppression under Skull Island may not be all giant beasts. That kind has huge amounts of giant beasts than mountains. The gorilla in front of him, magnified hundreds of times in the human world, can only be regarded as a young child in Skull Island, and his height is not even as high as the knees or even the ankles of a real behemoth. At this moment, just like Tony, 1/10 of the people in the world saw this scene at the same time. Some are skeptical, some are shocked, some are fearful, some are curious. Negative emotions from Wanda +50, negative emotions from Quicksilver +50. Negative emotions from Tony Stark +200, negative emotions from Nick Fury +500. Negative emotions from Natasha Romanoff +100, +150, +170. Negative emotions from Passerby A +2.1. Lin Tian opened his eyes. There is a smile on the corner of the mouth. Looking at the 200 creation crystals that have been condensed. Slowly closed his eyes again. Although there are not so many creation crystals to create a complete Skull Island event, first use the event to implant this idea in everyone's head, and then slowly expand the world, just like playing a game. Expand the map bit by bit. Let everyone see this shocking phenomenon. Harvest a small part of the emotional value first. The next step is to harvest the main characters. Shield. Nick saw everything that happened on Skull Island. Huge amounts of mountain peaks and chains thicker than mansions tie the creatures underground. Could that be Skull Island in Legendary? But why could he see that scene? Nick Fury looked at the pale-faced Hill Agent. Hill Agent, you look ugly, what did you just see? I seem to see Skull Island. Skull Island? I'm not the only one who saw it. Nick suppressed the fear in his heart, and asked other agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Almost half of the people answered quite unanimously. These agents are very professional, and the scenes they narrate are almost the same. Hearing these people's answers, Nick's face paled instantly. If he was the only one who saw it, then it could only mean that it was his hallucination, so don't take it too seriously. But now so many people have seen it, all of them have seen that scene. And the details that everyone sees are all the same. Could it be an illusion? As some unknown force projecting the scene of Skull Island into their consciousness, allowing them to see that scene? Thinking of this, Nick's scalp felt numb. If that's the case. Skull Island is real. The words I heard before should all be true. Mommy Fock, this pig teammate in the military. Thinking of the death of King Kong on Skull Island, which would lead to the Targon-like Guardian, Nick felt his scalp tingling. How to solve this? Hill Agent reminded from the side. Director Nick, the most important thing now is not the military, but the guy named Shenren, who is now transforming the little King Kong. After his transformation, he was killed by the military. The same result. Don't forget that his transformation is to transform the soul of the creature, and this process cannot be reversed by other methods. After listening to Hill Agent, Buzz. Nick's blood pressure soared, and all the blood in his body rushed into his brain. My head almost exploded. F*K, F*K, F*K. Is there no solution now? Little King Kong's roar became weaker and weaker. Consciousness has also been modified in a mess. On the top of its head, black tentacles began to grow constantly one after another. Countless tentacles dance wildly in the air, like Black's boa constrictor's lair, or dense seaweed in the sea. The tentacles are entangled with each other and grow wantonly in the air. When each tentacles are swung, they can easily cut a person in half. Even the police helicopter was torn to pieces by the whip of the tentacles. And little King Kong fell into despair and pain because of his distorted soul. He constantly flicked his whip, and the speed of demolishing the building was even faster. He had already demolished the top few floors. From the depths of Skull Island, the black goat of the forest that bred thousands of seeds, with the power of the blood of the Asgardian heir, sacrificed to you. And in order to hear your coming, I sacrificed the gift of blessing, the cub of the black goat. The corner of Zhenren's mouth showed a wicked smile. Haha. The transformation has been completely completed. Asgardian should have felt it. His child has been twisted into the heir of the monster he suppressed. This feeling is wonderful. You really have a bad taste, transforming an Asgardian child into one of the suppressed. The Dark Queen Xiaoyu said dissatisfiedly. You can kill him directly, and directly attract Asgardian to leave Skull Island. The real man didn't look at Xiaoyu, but looked at the old man outside the thorny human flesh vine he created, and the old man had subdued the cursed slug transformed by the real man. But it can't deal with the thorns and vines of human flesh. Because real people are cruel. Taoist deliberately kept the human flesh thorny vine to maintain a clear consciousness of human beings. The vines begged them constantly, begging for their lives. Although it was distorted into a monster, he didn't want to die either. You have already lost. The real person looked outside, and one terrifying crack after another began to appear on the ground. Those cracks seemed to lead to the abyss, police station. George Stacy had just taken off his hat and was about to go home when an emergency order was received, although uptown New York was not under his jurisdiction. But this emergency order was urgent. Almost all the police in New York were transferred to the uptown area, even the auxiliary police were transferred there. George Stacy asked the other officers, "What's going on?" Someone sent the picture to Stacy. You can see it. In the dark uptown New York City, a shadow creature with huge amounts of black is crazily crashing into buildings on the street, its tentacles as dense as seaweed, dancing wildly in the sky. The ground cracked several meters wide cracks, exuding fiery red light, as if the gate of hell had been opened, and the fire of hell came out of the cracks in the ground. And police guns, not even howitzers, could leave a trace on that black monster. See this scene. George was horrified. When did such a terrifying monster appear in New York? He seemed to have seen hallucinations before, and for some reason, he always felt that the hallucination world in his mind overlapped with the photo in front of him. Negative emotions from George Stacy +25, negative emotions from Agent A +15. Natasha Romanoff saving lives at the park. After witnessing the gorilla King Kong transform into a monster, and then experiencing a major earthquake, she knows that her time is running out. She originally wanted to report directly to S.H.I.E.L.D., but her communication equipment was broken, so she had no way to inform S.H.I.E.L.D., so she had to catch up with Tanlang and Poxing first, to confirm whether it was true that she could save the world. If true, then the other side may be the only way to save the world. Please stop, both of you. Natasha Romanoff stopped in front of the two. Tanlang and Poxing looked at each other in surprise. Your friend? Your friend? He quickly denied it again. I do not recognize. I do not recognize. Greedy Wolf stroked his hair. Miss, although I know you may have taken a fancy to me, but I'm sorry. Now I need to save the world. Here is my business card. If you can't sleep at night, you can call me. Po Jun pushed away the shameless Greedy Wolf, and seeing the crack in Natasha Romanoff's back, he immediately clasped his hands together and let out a loud shout. A large crack spread towards them, and countless mud pillars like sewing threads appeared in an instant. Seal up. The hot air gushing from the ground lifted the area he had patched high up, as if to burn his mud column. Drink, get down. Po Jun gritted his teeth, using his power to control the earth, against the pressure of the ground. The ground rumbled like an earthquake. Po Jun suddenly used force, and even forcibly sewed up the cracked area. It's like squeezing the cracked ground together with your hands. Qi Shaoxia, you are enough, and you have seen this young lady who is not fully dressed. We really don't have time to chat right now. Natasha Romanoff was shocked when she saw that the crack just now was stitched up by Po Jun. So powerful. Even the cracked ground was directly closed. Positive emotions from Natasha Romanoff +50. Wait, he says I'm not fully dressed. Natasha Romanoff looked down. Negative emotions from Natasha Romanoff +100. Zippered up. Watching the person in front of him leave, Natasha Romanoff quickly said. Wait. Gentlemen, I'm not here to chat. I know you're here to save the world. If you can turn that orangutan back, I can help you. I'm from S.H.I.E.L.D., trust me, I can help you approach them to obtain the ability you need. Greedy Wolf put away his cynical smile, and looked at Natasha Romanoff seriously. Are you sure you can help us? I need to get within 10 meters of the real person to obtain his ability, miss. This is not a joke. If it fails, it will be deadman, and we are not dealing with common people. Ordinary agents can't. Natasha Romanoff nodded gravely. Leave this matter to me, trust me, and please trust us. Po Jun nodded. That's fine. You need to create a way for me to go there. Po Jun will help me suppress that little King Kong. As long as some of you help me stop the real person and his team, I can take the little King Kong has recovered. Natasha Romanoff grabbed a passerby who was running past her after gaining the other's confidence. What you do? Bring me the phone. The other party wanted to resist, but seeing Natasha Romanoff's fist, he obediently handed over the phone. Isn't the agent protecting the common people? How to beat the common people? What did Drive V tell you when you came out? Respect other people's customs. Listen to the discussion of the two. Negative emotions from Natasha Romanoff +1+1+1+1+1. However, she was finally able to contact S.H.I.E.L.D. What happened in New York, S.H.I.E.L.D. naturally saw clearly through satellites. The sacred mountain in New York, the Lenda Mountains, has a peak of 300 meters. Split directly from the middle, revealing the deep red abyss crack, like a devil's huge mouth roaring towards the sky. The Hudson River, once known as the Mother River of New York's transportation hub, is hundreds of meters deep. But after that crack passed, just as the east wind helped Moses to divide the sea, a crack of tens of meters was opened, allowing the seawater 100 meters deep to hang upside down and fall into the bottomless abyss. Almost in just a short time, the water in the entire river was swallowed up by the endless abyss. The cracks in New York are like a magic circle. The periphery is a circle, and the cracked pattern in the middle looks like a skeleton. The hot and fiery gaps seemed as if there were really countless demons roaring below. It's just that the outer circle is not completely lit, and the middle is broken a little, so now Skull Island does not appear. Silence. 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 Nick looked around, seeing everyone else with their heads down. Is there really no other way? The Tricurved Wing building is located in Washington, more than 1,000 kilometers away from New York. Even though they have dispatched the nearest agent, it still takes at least 2 or 3 hours to travel. They knew what happened, but there was nothing they could do to save it. I can only wait and worry. Hill agent received the call with joy on his face. Natasha Romanoff, are you sure? Is there really a way to save that orangutan? The meeting room fell silent for an instant. All eyes were on Agent Hill. There was some expectation in his eyes. Just now Hill agent talked about the chance to save that orangutan. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the Hill agent to answer the call and tell them the final result. After Hill answered the phone, put the phone down first. Then he looked around and took a deep breath. Okay, there's one more chance to save Little King Kong. Someone can help us restore Little King Kong to its original appearance. Hiss, you sure? Subconsciously, Nick Fury stood up excitedly. And the other agents around also all set their sights on her. Or look forward to, or hope, or serious although silent. But heavy. Like a stone, like a mountain. This moment. Hill nodded emphatically at Nick. With incomparable firmness in his eyes, I'm sure. Hill agent then told Nick the information he had received from Natasha Romanoff. A person who can copy the other party's ability. Nick Fury looked at the skull in the picture, and now he can only do so. If the other party can really reverse everything, there may be a chance. Positive emotions from Nick Fury +50, has anyone from S.H.I.E.L.D. arrived yet? Agent Phil Coulson has rushed to the scene as quickly as possible. Nick Fury nodded and gave the order, okay, then, fully cooperate. Yes. 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 Mood +10 from Tren Agent. Mood +50 from Hill Agent from New York. Fiery flames in the sky pierced through black sky, hitting New York like meteors. People under the night were terrified, running around like headless chickens. The ground is littered with ruins and the remains of buildings. Explosions, crimes, and $0 purchases can be seen everywhere. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It's a missile, be careful. One after another Tomahawk missiles passed over the heads of the police officers who blocked the road with police cars, then automatically avoided the flying gravel in the air, and finally bypassed the dancing tentacles in the air, and finally landed with incomparable precision on the ground, twisted into a young black goat. On the cub. Boom, rumble. The violent explosion lit up New York. The roar of the explosion was deafening. When George arrived for support, he looked up at the bombed monster in front of him, his heart was pounding, and he almost collapsed. God. In the center of the explosion, the dancing tentacles were enveloped in a puff of charred smoke, as if its huge amounts of body had penetrated the clouds. Several explosions broke several tentacles. The thick tentacle fell to the ground, but it directly smashed a bus, and the slightly thicker tentacle smashed the ground into a big hole. However, in the next second, those tentacles seemed to be alive, and they reconnected with its body, integrating together, and in the blink of an eye, the injuries recovered as before. Negative emotions from George Stacy +140. What kind of monster is this? Run. Wake up quickly, little Iron Man. Tony was hit by Dad with a dry magic blowfish and flew backwards. Waking up from the hallucination, he immediately saw a ninja from the Shadow Legion attacking his ass in the mirror in front of him, and he quickly manipulated the mark armor to dodge. He was in a daze on the battlefield. Tony felt a little ashamed. In the future, I must install a device that can wake me up on the next generation mark armor. And there is that Shadow Legion, does he have a special affection for his ass? Negative emotions from Tony Stark +1 +1 +1 +1 +1. The old man jumped behind Uncle Long and defended back to back with Uncle Long. While dealing with the Shadow Legion in the curse spirit, he said, "Did you see those memories just now?" Tony was shocked. Memory? Wasn't it just? While kicking a Shadow Legion ninja 10 meters away, the old man put on a martial arts posture. That's just a little aftermath of the power leak on Skull Island, and it allows you to see the world there. What you see is just a skeleton, the edge of the island, the real middle ground, even the weakest existence. If humans see it, they will immediately go crazy. Edge? Tony felt like his head was going to explode. A mountain that big is just on the edge? Rumble. Cracks on the outside constantly widened, and the whole building crumbled. The foundation sank several meters in an instant. The old man stepped up and stood firm. Look at this movement. The Asgardians on Skull Island have already felt that King Kong is injured, and now we can only keep little King Kong first. If little King Kong dies, the Asgardians on Skull Island will desperately leaving Skull Island. The monsters guarded by him will emerge from all over the world. But, it seems to have been transformed. Tony forced himself to shake off another ninja who was heading towards his ass. A well-behaved child was turned into a monster. If you give it to others, can they take it? Just when he was having a headache, Jarvis got a message from Natasha Romanoff. "Sir, I received a voice from Ms. Natasha Romanoff. Ms. Natasha Romanoff needs our help to prevent the real person from leaving. She said that she has helpers who can save the orangutan." Is there a way to save that orangutan? Tony regained consciousness immediately. What way? Miss Natasha Romanoff said that the people around her can copy the ability of a real person. As long as he is allowed to copy the ability of a real person, then the physical body of little King Kong can be restored. What Jarvis said made Tony's eyes light up. That's right, if there is a person who can completely copy the other party's ability, then the modified soul can be modified back. Iron Man Tony used the concentrated light cannon in the palm of his hand to blast away the approaching curse spirit again, but the opponent healed at a speed visible in the blink of an eye. Although they are all the use of energy, as the real person said, even hot weapons cannot deal with the curse spirit. This is the rule. No matter how heaven-defying a person is, it is impossible to change the world against the rules. However, Natasha Romanoff finally brought a piece of excellent news. Right now he is having a headache for little King Kong. The news of Natasha Romanoff just solved his urgent need. Daddy. Tony also unknowingly called Daddy Mage along with Uncle Long. Little Tiezi, Dad is not free right now. Tony broke away from the ninjas of the Shadow Legion around him, and said excitedly to his father, "Dad, I know someone who can copy the ability of a real person. Maybe Shu Fu copied the ability of a real person, and he can restore little King Kong." Using the furniture of Tony's house, Uncle Long gained the upper hand even when facing the siege of more than a dozen Shadow Legions. After all, this is Uncle Long from the Furniture City with the artifact. Hearing Tony's words, Uncle Long took the time to give Tony a thumbs up. You still have such a friend. Today is really a prank, it's an eye-opener. Tony. Negative emotions from Tony Stark +2 +2 +2 +2 +2. Want to obtain the ability of a real person? The Dark Queen Xiaoyu obviously heard Tony's words, her face turned cold. Shadow Legion, destroy them, and this queen will withdraw first. After the real person transformed little King Kong, it fell to the ground together with it. He can twist other people's souls, and naturally he can also twist his own soul arbitrarily. So no matter what kind of harm his body suffers, as long as it cannot harm his soul, he can recover instantly. This is also the scariest part of his spells. Looking at the lush black goat cub in front of him like a giant tree, he heard the painful wails and vicious curses around him. As a stuntman born out of human hatred, he felt happy physically and mentally. Negative emotion +1. Negative emotion +1. Negative emotion +1. The continuous growth of negative emotions made Zhenren's strength even stronger. The balance of the world is more and more biased towards them. Have you finally unlocked the power of the domain? Looks like creating more chaos. The real person suddenly opened up the domain, the black space superimposed by countless black hands. In this space, no one can avoid it. It is bound to be touched by real hands. In other words, entering the realm of real people, being touched by him to the soul is absolute. The real man slowly opened his arms. Smile a little in the air. Black's field opens. A group of tumor-like Cthulhu clumps were killing in all directions. Stark Industrial Building. Iron Man saw the following scene. Damn it, Jarvis, how many armors are still active? Sir, all your armor has been destroyed. Iron Man was speechless, as expected. The slap of the gorilla before was too violent. And if the armor hadn't been destroyed, Jarvis would have called it in for support. Next time you can't put all the armor in one place, you have to find a way to launch it on the satellite. I don't believe it, but if you put it on a satellite, you can blow it up. Contacted with Natasha Romanoff? Contacting. Iron Man Tony is going crazy. Are all the ninjas of the Shadow Legion in front of you regenerative healing factor? No matter how you beat them, you won't be able to kill them. They were obviously hit by the concentrated energy gun, but these guys merged into the ground in the next second, and then jumped out from behind them alive and kicking. It made him feel psychological fear when he saw the shadow now. That is to say, Dad can deal with them, but his energy attacks are almost useless against them. He vowed to modify a steel ingot device first and carry it with him every day. Also modify a suit of magic armor, specially deal with these bastards. The old man watched the green energy of the dried pufferfish in his hand begin to grow, and said in a deep voice. The demon energy has started to grow, and the strength of these villains is about to increase. Aaron, find a way to catch Xiao Yu and wash off the demon tattoo stickers on her body, or it will be too late. Uncle Long smiled wryly. Father, I think so too, but there is a thorny vine of human flesh in front of Xiao Yu. We can't burn it, my God. Xiao Yu jumped from the place where the real person jumped off just now. Uncle Long, who was standing in a building with dozens of floors, looked at Xiao Yu who was being held by the Shadow Legion. Gritting his teeth, it seems that I will be forced to be a professional today. Uncle Long jumped. Xiao Yu, I'm here. Tony looked shocked. Damn. Positive emotions from Tony plus 100. How dare you jump without a safety rope? Don't worry, that's Aaron. The most important thing now is to let the person you mentioned get the ability of a real person. Tony looked away, thinking of what his father said just now. Dad just said that the strength of the villain will increase as the demon energy increases? What does that mean? He had never heard of the concept before. Father, I'm contacting that person. What do you mean by the increase in devil energy? How can the increase in devil energy increase the strength of the wicked? While dealing with the members of the Shadow Legion, Dad replied to Tony, the increase in demonic energy is my description of the evil camp, and it does not represent specific things. The evil thoughts generated by the wicked will bless the island of devils, Skull Island, the power of the Shadow Isles, etc., and these powers will eventually act on the villains of these evil camps to enhance their strength. If this is the case, then we can only watch their strength increase greatly. Is there no way to stop them? Dad kicked one person away again. It's not impossible, because the universe is balanced. When the evil forces start to recover, someone in the legendary will guide part of the righteous camp to recover to maintain the breadth of the two sides. Balance. Someone exists. Dad shook his head. It's just legendary. I haven't seen Dad either. If the magic energy really increases and the number of people in the magic energy camp starts to increase, maybe you will see the heroes in legendary. You may be able to find those people and get their help. Righteousness? The existence of legendary, magical energy, balance? Iron Man constantly analyzes these contents in his mind. He felt as if he was about to touch the truth of the world. The forces that can balance the forces of these evil factions. When this incident is over, I must find those who belong to the righteous camp. Tony looked at the ninjas around. Those banquet guests were almost cleaned up by ninjas and curse spirits. The original curse spirit now occupies half of the banquet space, and with the help of ninjas from the Shadow Legion around, it is very difficult for the old man to cope. Father, let me take you away first. There are too many ninjas in the Shadow Legion here. Moreover, these bastards always have a soft spot for his ass. He has a psychological shadow now. Resentment from Tony Stark +1+1+1+1. No, I have to stop these people. If I leave, these ninjas will deal with Aaron. He can't handle it alone. Then the little King Kong and the real person outside? The old man put on a sharp fighting posture. I can only leave it to you. There is one more thing. Remember to protect yourself. Even if the hope is slim, as long as people are still alive, there is still a chance to save the world. Positive emotions from Tony Stark +150. Although we have just met, Dad believes that you are a good boy. Dad, I have lived for more than 100 years, and you still have more time. Take other people and leave. Let Dad come take care of the aftermath and deal with these troubles that you young people haven't seen. Positive emotions from Tony Stark +100. Father. Although it was only a short time with Dad. However, Dad's bravery and ability made him admire. Tony. Great, Natasha Romanoff, you finally answered the phone. Now we are rushing to your side. I need you to help us attract the attention of the distorted little King Kong. We will be there soon. Natasha Romanoff with someone? Very good. Father. Go, go, don't worry about Dad, I'm not a vegetarian. Tony took a deep look at his father, as if he wanted to imprint this centenarian old man deeply in his mind. Now he can only believe that his father can stop these shadow army ninjas. Hateful. It would be nice to have more staff. It will not be so passive, nor would a centenarian fight against so many enemies. Father, wait for me, I will come back and save you. Tony knows that time is life. Now the crisis outside is no less than that faced by the old man, and there are more people waiting for him to save. A blast of fire. Red's figure knocked two ninjas away, breaking the bulletproof windows. Then quickly scan in all directions. At the moment, standing in the sky, Tony saw the crack in the ground. It's half a skull face, and Stark's building is right between the skull's teeth. Skull Island. This is the first impression in his mind. Pepper, are you okay? Tony uses Jarvis to talk to Pepper. I'm fine, are you okay? There's been explosions outside and the building has been collapsing. You stay there, that room can withstand the explosion of a nuclear bomb, as long as you don't come out, you are absolutely safe there. Tony. Hearing that Pepper was fine, Tony flew towards King Kong. Dad is always fighting, how can he love his son and daughter at the moment? Positive emotions from Tony +1+1+1+. Jarvis, how's the ammunition? 40% of the overall reserve is left, and 60% of the laser weapon energy remains. Enough. New York's NYPD police car interception became a line of defense. Cthulhu blobs distorted by real people, and some distorted python monsters are coming towards their defense line. George Stacy looked sullen and clutched his pistol in both hands. The palms are full of sweat. Those monsters were only 1,000 meters away from them. And they are just small pistols, can you stop them? ZZ. George Stacy suddenly heard the intercom ringing on his chest. The first line of defense has been defeated. Repeat. The first line of defense has been defeated. All the police officers on the second line of defense, please cooperate with those who come to support, and make sure they are close to the range of the monster. Repeat. ZZ. All the police officers on the second line of defense. Someone who came to support. While George was in a daze, a B-2 bomber flew overhead behind him, followed by two drones and entered the battlefield, adjusted the drone's weapon direction in the air, and shot towards the distorted monster on the ground. And there are a large number of ground troops behind them, moving in their direction. Is it the military? ZZ. No. Your task, ZZ, is to assist S.H.I.E.L.D. The three of them should have arrived. Z. Just when the voice on the intercom just fell, three motorcycles suddenly appeared from behind them. The hum of the engine was like an explosion, and three figures flew over his head. Natasha Romanoff, Tanlang, Chi Shaosha, Pojun. Fuck. George raised his head and touched his scalp, which was scratched by the tire. Negative emotions from George Stacy +100. Why do these people love their own hair? The previous Tomahawk missile was brushed against his scalp, and so is the current motorcycle. Takao belongs to Takao. But George also knew that these three people should be the ones the people above asked them to help. After George confirmed the identities of the three S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel to the main station. Make a quick decision and let all the police officers assist you to move forward. S.H.I.E.L.D. Trikerv Wing Building. Military bombers have arrived, and it's even more troublesome. Now I can only hope that they can succeed and keep Little King Kong. Natasha Romanoff, Tanlang, and Pojun rode motorcycles, charging into the battlefield like three rockets piercing the night sky. The three kept dodging bricks thrown from the sky. Po-jun even used his ability to control the earth element to constantly create chain-like soil to block stones and spells that they could not avoid. He even directly used soil blocks to make aerial platforms, and let them ride motorcycles across the new road he made. Tony, we've arrived and need your support now. I'm here too, I saw you. Clatter. Just as the three of them were moving forward indomitably, they were still more than 300 meters away from Little King Kong. Countless tree roots suddenly drilled out of the ground. Blocked the way of the three of them. On several raised platforms, a mantra with a hand wrapped in a heavy bandage appeared. It looks like a human, with a human-shaped body, but the skin is as pale as birch bark, and where the eyes grow, there are two raised branches. Just you guys want to sabotage the real person's plan. Seeing the curse spirit in front of him, Po-jun turned his motorcycle sideways and slid for more than 10 meters. Damn it, it's another super curse spirit. Why? Another super magic spirit? Natasha Romanoff's chest trembled. In order to facilitate the conversation with S.H.I.E.L.D., Natasha Romanoff put the mobile phone in the chest seal. Their conversation was also transmitted to S.H.I.E.L.D. by the way. Negative emotions from Nick Fury plus 100, negative emotions from Hill Agent plus 30. Just being a real person was enough trouble for them. Now another one. Moreover, the Master Dio they are talking about has not yet appeared. Think of the dark forces hidden behind this. S.H.I.E.L.D. negative emotions from Nick Fury plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. From Hill. Po Jun got out of the car and flung off his coat handsomely. Xiao saw, that lady, go find the real person, I will leave Hua Yu to me. Tanlang was a little anxious. Po Jun, your power is earth, her attribute is wood, and she is an earth spirit, which naturally restrains your earth element. If you really fight, you will never be able to defeat her. If you can't fight, why don't you stop fighting? Po Jun showed a handsome side face to the two of them. Chisa, when we came, we should have known that we might sacrifice in battle, and I was ready to sacrifice, although thousands of people, I will go too. Hana Yu. Come to fight. Po Jun clasped his hands together, a dragon-like creature drilled out of the ground, and threw it at Hua Yu. And Hua Yu grinned, laughing horribly. Curse seed. Seeing Po Jun who was already fighting with Hua Yu, Tanlang clenched his fists. You guy, I will definitely complete the mission. The words of breaking the army boosted the morale of Tanlang and Natasha Romanoff. Especially the inspiring aura emerging from Tanlang's body. Made Natasha Romanoff feel confident. Positive emotions from Natasha Romanoff plus 200. Positive emotions from Nick Fury plus 1 plus 1. Positive emotions from Hill Agent plus 20. Follow me. The nearby police officers approach the battlefield. But these police officers are like cannon fodder. The only function is to contribute some positive emotions when Tanlang boosts morale. It's almost time to harvest negative emotions, and it's almost time to harvest positive emotions. Curse seed. Hana sprinkled spores into the air. Those spores shot towards the dense crowd like bullets. Po Jun is pressing on the ground with one hand. As his hand was raised, there was a rumbling sound. He pulled up a huge amounts of earth wall on the ground. The earth wall barely helped Tanlang and Natasha Romanoff stop Hana Yu's spore attack. You guys go. Po Jun shouted to the two people behind him. But others around were not so lucky. Accurately hit by Hana Yu's spores. Ah. What is this? It hurts. I feel like it's eating me. From. Negative emotions plus 1.2. From. Negative emotions plus 1.1. Hearing screams all around. Po Jun looked gloomily at Hua Yu who was stepping on the root of the tree in the air. Be careful. The kind of curse seed spores based on the flower's magic power, once hit, will enter the body and lurk in every corner of the host's body. Po Jun shouted. Hold it. As long as I solve it, those spores will have no source of power. Hua Yu showed a cruel smile. Fix me? With your ability. Is this possible? Tree roots grow. Hua Yu waved her hand casually, and the ground shook violently again. As the elf of the forest, Hana Yu controls the roots of the underground trees and grows wildly. The dense tree roots are like poisonous snakes in a nest of thousands of snakes entangled with each other. Break out of the ground. Po Jun glanced at the injured police officers behind him. You hide behind me. Gratitude from, plus 10. Gratitude from, plus 1.5. But compared with negative emotions, it is difficult to gain positive emotions. The spores of Hua Yu can absorb nutrients from the human body. Especially for those with special abilities. The more you use the ability, the faster the seed will grow, until in the end the whole person is drained of power by the curse seed and becomes the nutrient of the curse seed. Police bullets hit Hua Yu's body. It's like scratching an itch, it's useless at all. And the bombers of the military ahead passed by. In addition to dropping a bomb, it shattered a bunch of curse spirits, but it was still useless. Because of the setting at the beginning of the creation, it was set that these curse spirits could only be killed by weapons and forces that also contained magic power. Therefore, even if the military dropped nuclear bombs, they would not be able to kill them. It's just that the military still believes that the bombs it dropped were not powerful enough. Prepare to carry a wave of big ones, and a wave of big bombings will come. The battlefield area of Po Jun and Hua Yu covered a range of 100 meters. In the range of this 100 meters, it is almost impossible for outsiders to approach. There is no protection from the stone wall of the broken army. If you are not careful, you will be torn to pieces by Hua Yu in an instant. Do you want to protect those dirty humans? With your strength, if you don't protect those humans, you won't be hurt. Only then did the police officers protected by Po Jun notice the piranha blooming on Po Jun's chest. Red flowers, shark teeth. As if chewing the flesh and blood on Po Jun's chest, he laughed at Po Jun with a cruel smile. George Stacy was extremely shocked. Mr. Po Jun, he was injured. George, who was being protected, was stunned when he saw the flower on Po Jun's chest that was several times larger than his body. The flowers on his body are so small, it makes him feel the pain in his heart. Mr. Po Jun from at the moment, what a pain. Immediately afterwards, Hua Yu's sister Yu taunted and spread indifferently. Every time you use your power, the curse seed will continue to grow. Now, how much power do you have left to protect those human beings? If you didn't protect those wastes, you wouldn't be in such a mess. Po Jun responded coldly. The reason why human beings are human is that when we encounter disasters, we will extend a helping hand and help each other. This kind of fetter is beyond the comprehension of you soulless curse spirits. Po Jun's words shocked the policeman behind him. Yes, times of disaster, they need a helping hand. Don't talk about others, these police officers should take the lead. Although George Stacy has curse seeds on her face, at the moment is at the forefront. Mr. Po Jun, let us help you too. The police officers behind him also stood up one by one to surround Po Jun. We can also contribute. That's right, even if it is an enemy that cannot be fought, as long as we help each other, there will be no difficulty that we cannot overcome. That's right, Mr. Po Jun, let us help you. Positive emotions from +20. Positive emotions from +20. Stupid. If that's the case, let your corpses become the nourishment of Huahai together. Clatter. The ground surged again. Like a giant python rampaging underground, the vibration of the ground made it impossible for everyone to stand still. Po Jun realized that his strength was not enough, and quickly shouted at the others. Leave quickly, this is no longer a battlefield that you can participate in. And Kong Hua Yu continued to sneer, protect these wastes, do you think you can really protect them? Now let you feel what despair is. Huge amounts of tree roots emerged from the ground. The twisted roots twisted and entwined in the air. Finally, a giant python with a width of several meters formed in the sky, attacking in their direction. The giant python opened its mouth, and its deep intestines looked like a bottomless abyss. Rush towards them. Mr. Po Jun, run, under the crisis, George Stacy shouted. Drink. Po Jun didn't look back, but just let out a violent drink. Use your last strength. The ground churned, taking those people constantly away from him. And looking at the monster that swallowed Po Jun. For a moment, despair enveloped everyone's hearts. No. Mr. Po Jun. Boom, boom, boom. Huge amounts of tree roots hit the ground, kicking up dust dozens of meters high. Even they were thrown several meters away by the impact of the aftermath. Listen to tinnitus. Looking at the position of Mr. Po Jun, who was engulfed by the tree root python. Cluck cluck. Slightly, in the thick dust. They saw a figure. Although thin, small, but indomitable. There are more than a dozen spears like mountains around him. Mr. Po Jun is not dead. Positive emotions from George Stacy +500. From +15. From +15. From +17. Great, Mr. Po Jun is fine. At this moment, the people rescued by Po Jun seem to see hope. Although he is alone, but it really withstood Hana Yu's fatal blow. Military tanks have come over. Boom, an explosion sounded, and it exploded on the root of Hua Yu's tree. Click. The root of the tree broke, but Hua Yu stepped on the tree's bow in the sky and stagnated steadily in midair. Not affected. Keep firing. Hana Yu turned her cold gaze to the army. Snort. Underground, a thick vine grew again. With the posture of thunder, tear the ground, rampage, and go towards the tank. Rumble. The huge underground tree roots instantly grew hundreds of meters long, crossed a river, and the roots drilled out of the ground. In the next second, a powerful force knocked the tank into the air, slamming on the nearby red apartment building. The 7-story apartment collapsed in an instant. The soldiers around were a little confused. That was a tank weighing tens of tons. All metal. Not plastic. As a result, he was hit so casually by the opponent, and was sent flying. Natasha Romanoff and Tanlang are close to real people. And reunited with the coming Hawkeye and Steve. You guys are here too. Natasha Romanoff looked at the two of them. Looks to Steve's left hand in shock. Captain America caught the swung shield with one hand and inserted it behind his back. A large pile of rotten flesh grew out of his left hand, with weird eyes blinking on it. And Hawkeye shot a sharp arrow, and thousands of volts of electric current surged above it, which numbed a Cthulhu mass with electricity. Briefly lost attack power. Immediately aimed at the other one. This is Mr. Greedy Wolf. Captain America paid attention to Natasha Romanoff's gaze. Sorry, I just suffered a bit. Hawkeye is still taciturn as always, not very talkative. Natasha Romanoff knew this wasn't the time for small talk. Yes, it looks like you've all heard from S.H.I.E.L.D. Got it. As long as you don't touch the other party or be touched by the other party, you'll be fine. What a pity. Once it touches the opponent, it will be transformed into a monster by the opponent. However, even if you know it, it's useless. Hawkeye dare not attack a real person within 100 meters. Because real people can change the length of their hands and souls, allowing their hands to touch people tens of meters away. And real people are fast. If Hawkeye attacks a real person, as long as he is entangled by any twisted spirit, he will definitely be touched by the other party. Captain America was touched by the opponent just because he contacted the opponent one step earlier. Fortunately, Hawkeye was rescued in time, so that his whole body was not transformed into a cursed spirit. Even though it was just a touch, his left hand was completely useless. Now, only Tanlang in front of him can restore his body. Now Tony is trying to attract Little King Kong's attention and prevent him from entering the city to wreak havoc. Mr. Po Jun is entangled by the special magic spirit Hua Yu, and now we are the only ones to help Mr. Greedy Wolf. The opponent's attack is within a range of about 50 meters, while Tanlang needs a distance of 10 meters. And Steve's left hand was out of action again. Even if he didn't lose his fighting power, he and Natasha Romanoff were powerless against such a creature. Greedy Wolf reminded, "Guys, don't forget that we don't have much time to think about it. The Asgardians of Skull Island are coming out any minute. And what I want to tell you is that my god's right hand can only copy and store 3 abilities. Each ability can only be used for 10 minutes, and the cooling time is 1 hour. Now I have stored 2 abilities in advance. One is Po Jun's ability to control the earth, and the other is Sister Kang Yu's skill. I am the only one in the world. Don't worry about the second ability, it's a must-kill stunt. You can freeze everything at will in any sphere of influence, and any form of life will be completely eliminated, because I don't know how far it is activated, so I will not use it unless it is a last resort. So, I can only use Po Jun's ability now, but I need to use Po Jun's power to limit the Little King Kong and restore it, so after I copy the ability of the real ability, I may not be able to participate in the battle for a short time. Do you understand?" Greedy Wolf looked at Natasha Romanoff and Steve, and Hawkeye. The 3 of them suddenly felt the pressure. 10 meters away, 10 minutes. Understood. Leave it to us. Steve pulled out the shield behind his back with his right hand. Although he could only fight, even though the opponent had completely defeated him, he had no other choice now but to go up. Okay, then. Let's do it, in the sky. Jarvis constantly broadcasts a warning from Iron Man's mask. Warning, insufficient energy. Warning, insufficient energy. Hateful. Only 3% of the energy left. If it's close to 1%, then he has to stop. Otherwise, the power of flight may not even be supported. Now, he can only hope that the people over there will be faster. Steve looked at the monsters surrounding the real person with a cold expression on his face. Those are the people he twisted into monsters. Especially after he was twisted, he knew the feeling of being twisted. The pain that goes deep into the soul, that pain is not in the body, so it can never be suppressed. Hey, you bastard, look over here. Steve grabbed the shield and approached the real person squarely. Hawkeye aimed at the cursed spirits around Jiangxi, preparing to open the way for the greedy wolves below. Tanlang sneaked in quietly and approached the opponent. It's not that he doesn't dare to use the ability to control the soil directly. It's that the copied ability is only valid for 10 minutes. Now Po Jun is fighting against Hua Yu, and he is the only one who can control Little King Kong. Now that he has activated it, he will have to acquire the real ability within 10 minutes and catch up with Little King Kong. And for 10 minutes, there was obviously no way for him to meet Little King Kong. To be on the safe side, he must approach the opponent without activating his ability. And this state is no different from common people. A little bit more. Hawkeye, standing on the platform on the 2nd floor, really broke into a cold sweat for Tanlang. If one is not careful, Tanlang will be noticed by those cursed spirits. But Hawkeye can't blink either. Once Taoist finds out their intentions, he can help Tanlang to leave. Distance. Here we go. Tanlang's attention is completely on the real person. God's right hand. Copy. Zhenren seems to have noticed that his ability is being stolen. So suddenly turned back. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at Tanlang. Too bad. Mr. Greedy Wolf can't activate the ability yet. Tony, prepare to rescue. When Natasha Romanoff called Tony, he has drawn his bow fully, and his eyes are as sharp as those of an eagle. Steve, on the other hand, only thought for a fraction of a second before making a decision. With a wave of his hand, he smashed the vibranium equipment on his back to the opponent's face, and at the same time threw himself at the outstretched arm of the real person. He has already realized that he cannot let Tanlang directly activate the ability here. Because there is not enough time, in 10 minutes, there was no way for Tanlang to transform Little King Kong. Therefore, Tanlang cannot activate ability now. And when others saw Steve's contribution, their minds were shocked. Negative emotions from Natasha Romanoff plus 100. Negative emotions from Hawkeye plus 100. Negative emotions from Nick Fury plus 20. Sacrifice. Sometimes it is necessary. Too late to indulge. Natasha Romanoff received word that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s agent had arrived. Tony, quickly lead Mr. Tanlang to catch up with Little King Kong. Hawkeye, make sure to stop the real person. After Steve touched the real person, his body was distorted at a speed visible to the naked eye. Like a fried quill, more like a sea urchin, quickly rolled into among the many spell spirits. Hawkeye fires a chipped arrow that hits Steve with precision. Mark the target first so that you can find it later. Then 2 arrows with electric current shot the area in front of the real person with incomparable precision, forming an electric current grid to temporarily prevent the real person from approaching the greedy wolf. And the drone array of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the sky is attacking the real person. Large-scale drone swarm combat systems came out side by side, and the bullets fired were not weaker than the damage of heavy machine guns. Even real people have to avoid the edge for a while. Even if those bullets couldn't kill him, they would hinder him to some extent. It seems that I have been regarded as the main target. But it doesn't matter, presumably, no matter how hard you struggle, it will be useless. Iron Man locks onto Natasha Romanoff's bearing. Then fire up. Now his energy is severely lacking, with 3% energy, at most he can help Tanlang attract a wave of firepower. When everything is going in a good direction, Lin Tian, who was sitting on the second floor of the jewelry store, drank a cup of tea. Even though we have tried our best to extract the spirit of the dark camp, there are still very few people who belong to the righteous side. You guys really don't live up to it. Just think about it, in the Dark Age, hope seems to be more precious and rare than pearls. However, it is precisely because of its rarity that when it is discovered, it will bloom so dazzlingly that the eyes cannot look directly at it. Lin Tian closed his eyes. Downstairs of Lin Tian, a passerby who was wearing a green school uniform with the word leeway printed on it, was obviously going bald, and his face could be drawn in 20 seconds with a style of painting. 100 push-ups a day, 100 sit-ups a day, 100 squats, and 10-kilometer long distance running every day. I have been practicing this kind of training for almost 3 years. In order to exercise willpower, I insist on eating only 1 banana for breakfast every day. I don't turn on the air conditioner in the hot Sha Tian, and I have to continue to do push-ups when my arms are dislocated. Wow, what is this? A piece of paper floated on his face. After seeing it, his face changed drastically. Oops, today's supermarket is on sale, and my coupon is about to expire. I hope to catch up. Tony flew to Greedy Wolf. It landed steadily in front of Tanlang. Natasha Romanoff shoots a pistol, attracting real attention. And Hawkeye also constantly uses multifunction arrows to block the real person's space. There was an explosion from the Stark Industries building. From the glass, accompanied by the sound of glass falling to the ground. An old man slipped down from a sloping building. Oh. I fell to my father's death. Tony saw someone falling down, and after noticing him, there was some surprise on his face. Dad, are you alright? Positive emotions from Tony. Plus 100. A few little guys in the area, how can I trap my father? Father, I washed off Xiao Yu's demon tattoo stickers for her. In the building, there was a voice. What Uncle Long held seemed to be the knives of those ninjas running out of the building. For some reason, Tony, who fell to the ground, always felt that there was some danger behind him. Especially when he saw the knife in Uncle Long's hand, his butt felt very uncomfortable. Negative emotions from Tony. Plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. Let go of me, Uncle Long. Okay, Xiao Yu, don't be awkward, now is not the time to be awkward. Xiao Yu struggled and jumped off Uncle Long. Tony at the moment noticed that the fully armed old man even had some impromptu self-made magic props hanging on his body. Some green bottles, and some dried lizards that Tony soaked in the wine. It's a pity that 12 runestones are missing. Ghost mask. There are also the 8 immortal artifacts. Otherwise, a perfect father will not fear anyone. Hold them, they can help you interfere with the magic spirit, and let the magic spirit recognize you as teammates. Thank you, Daddy. This is a magic prop that Dad waited until the Shadow Legion disappeared, and then used the transformed magic spirit to make it. It's a pity that there is not enough time and no tools, so I can only make some simple props. Seeing the number of people fighting real people gradually increase, Tony finally let go. Be careful. Then he grabbed Tanlang's body, hugged Tanlang and chased the little King Kong who was led away by him 3 kilometers away. Now time is life. Whoosh, Tony flew to Little King Kong with Greedy Wolf. Sir, your armor is so cool, it must have good defensive performance, right? Hee hee. Tony's mouth twitched. Good? The butt wound doesn't have time to be stitched up yet. As soon as he spoke, the wound on his buttocks seemed to burst open again. Damn Legion of Shadows. Negative emotions from Tony. +1 +1 +1. There was just a little resentment in Tony's heart. But now that the big things are the most important, there is no need to keep entangled in the little things. Bring Tanlang to the target. Looking at the distorted Little King Kong in front of him, Tony flew into the sky again. I leave it to you, Mr. Greedy Wolf. I will attract his attention. And Jarvis made a suggestion to Iron Man. Sir, you only have 2% of energy now. It is recommended to reduce energy consumption, otherwise it will not be able to support your safe return. No. Tony extended a thumb towards Greedy Wolf and flew towards Little King Kong. Little King Kong's wildly dancing tentacles completely turned the 50 meters around him into an inaccessible space. Iron Man can only use himself as a target, bombing King Kong, so as to attract King Kong's attention. The Greedy Wolf below first activates the ability to control the soil, and uses the surrounding soil to build a passage for him to approach the opponent. Only when he gets close to the opponent first, can he have a chance to meet Little King Kong. And after meeting Little King Kong, the pain caused by the transformation will also make Little King Kong use his tentacles to attack Greedy Wolf. So S.H.I.E.L.D., who understands this, immediately recall the drone, and then linger and harass Little King Kong's head like Iron Man, so that Little King Kong ignores the Greedy Wolf under him. S.H.I.E.L.D., everyone held their breath. On the avenue, the policemen also looked at the hero who was guarding them in front of them. They are hoping in their hearts and silently cheering for them from the bottom of their hearts. Win. This time, we must win. Po Jun roared loudly, and a stone dragon like a pillar of heaven drilled out of the ground. Dad also took out his housekeeping skills and recited the spell. Tanlang was building a wall while working hard to modify Little King Kong's soul. This time, humans will win. The power of faith gathers together. It seems to be able to penetrate the stubborn stone. In the ancient castle, there was an elegant and charming blonde man holding a handful of broken arrows in his hand. It looks like a gold beetle on it. Boom. After being touched. First came the legs, reverting from the hooves of a black goat kid to the thick thighs of a gorilla. Then comes the body, which grows hair. The people of S.H.I.E.L.D. jumped up excitedly when they saw King Kong returning to its original appearance through the satellite. Back to normal. They succeeded. Positive emotions from Hill Agent +100. Even Nick Fury's face regained a touch of relief. But he quickly restrained himself. Lying in a chair and tapping your thighs gives the feeling of being in control. Positive emotions from Nick Fury +200. Brothers, Little King Kong has begun to recover. Tony shared the good news with others. Natasha Romanoff, who received the news, also told Hawkeye and Dad about the news. Positive emotions from Natasha Romanoff +70. Positive emotions from Hawkeye +200. The next step is to wait for Little King Kong to fully recover before the crisis in New York can be resolved. Unknowingly, Po Jun, who attracted Hannah Yu to the Robert Needy Bridge, looked up at Hannah Yu. Hannah Yu, you are doomed to lose this time. Hua Yu's face became ruthless, and he moved in an instant, appearing in front of Po Jun. Then he kicked out like thunder. Hua Yu's icy voice spread along with Po Jun's inverted flight. Boom. It's not the end yet. How can you be sure who wins and loses? Po Jun was hit by this kick, flew upside down tens of meters, and then smashed heavily on the car on the bridge. Fortunately, the car behind helped him unload part of the impact. Even so, it made him cough up blood violently. Mr. Po Jun? Are you okay? It's okay. Po Jun wiped the blood from his mouth, looked at the police officer behind him who hadn't left yet. Why don't you leave yet? Mr. Po Jun, we are the police. You are fighting on the front line, how could we leave? Yes, we will fight with you. From Positive Emotions +5. From Positive Emotions +5. Okay. Po Jun turned his head to look at Hua Yu, who was walking towards him. Finally arrived at my home field. Hua Yu. Do you know what plants hate? They hate being on this kind of bridge. They can't grow. They hate themselves. The living environment is squeezed. And you're standing where you can't grow, where you're squeezed. And this kind of place is where your strength cannot be exerted. Plants need an environment to grow. Hua Yu in the distance suddenly smelled something foul. This is the smell of dead plants. Hannah Yu looked around and saw gasoline flowing on the ground. Even gasoline had seeped into her feet. The oil that was turned into the corpses of plants tens of millions of years ago was exploited by humans for reuse. This kid. Could it be that he deliberately sabotaged it when he was being beaten? Hua Yu suddenly looked at Po Jun. And Po Jun barely propped himself up with his hands. Shoot. Boom. The bullet hit the ground precisely, rubbing against the ground and producing faint sparks. But a single spark can start a prairie fire. Boom. For a moment, gasoline was ignited. Hua Yu was instantly engulfed by the sea of flames. There were explosions all around. A car was thrown off. From George Stacy, positive emotions plus 100. From positive emotions plus 5. From positive emotions plus 7. And the explosion continued to come towards them. Jump into the sea, George Stacy ordered immediately. At least 200 vehicles were parked on this bridge. One detonated, all exploded. The bridge was going to be bombed, and they had to jump into the sea to escape. Po Jun temporarily resolved the Hua Yu crisis. Even if it doesn't kill her, it will put her in a period of recovery. On the other side, the gorilla King Kong also recovered successfully. Even the wounds on his body were healed. Little King Kong, whose soul was recovered, also recovered his rationality, stopped attacking madly, and his eyes became much clearer. The surrounding drones are alert, and Iron Man hangs in the air. Greedy Wolf crawled out from the created earth wall. Please stop attacking, Little King Kong is not our enemy. Tony fell to the ground, and the Little King Kong's face was filled with pain and sadness. He seemed very sad. Greedy Wolf nodded. That's what I want to say. I just used ability to get in touch with him, and learned about his purpose here. The real person stole someone who is very important to him. That's why he has been chasing the real person. We need to help him get it back, as long as he gets that person back. Etc. Tony suddenly remembered. In the Stark building, the real person once made a girl in red appear for a moment. It was because of the appearance of the girl in red that the gorilla lost his mind. Finally, attack the Stark building madly. His Mark suit was smashed into scrap iron by it. None of my business. I didn't take it. Resentment from Tony Stark +1 +1 +1 +1. What's wrong? I mean, I've seen that thing before. There was a scarecrow on a real person, and when that thing was twisted into a human being by a real person, it was very angry. Tony collected his mood and looked at Tanlang quickly. Mr. Tanlang, how long do you have? There are only 3 minutes left for the power of controlling the earth, and only 5 minutes and 30 seconds for the power of a real person. There's no time. Stark immediately contacted Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff, don't let the real person go. There is a very important thing in the real person's body, and he must not let him take it away. If the real person took it away, it would still attract Little King Kong to another place. The crisis will not really be resolved. The only way is to bring back the scarecrow in the real person's arms. And the cooldown time of Greedy Wolf is a full hour. The next time I want to get the ability of a real person, I have to wait an hour later. Obviously, they couldn't afford to wait. They know it, and so does S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s agent, assist in taking back the protection. However, they were visibly relieved that King Kong was switched back. At least enough time to breathe. All focus is on the real person. Dad and others blocked the real person's way. Although real people can be resurrected without limit, the magic power in the body is limited. He is far from reaching the level of the King of Curses, the double-faced Sunuo. Iron Man came quickly with Tanlang. Falling to the ground, Tanlang quietly raised 3 fingers. 3 minutes. Only 3 minutes. Time is running out. Let's go. The rest of these people can only be consumed. Only greedy wolves can fight each other. Others know this too. Therefore, the greedy wolf can only be used as the main force to fight with real people. Revise. Revise. The moment the two people came into contact with each other, their abilities began to crazily modify each other's bodies. The palms of both hands softened like a solution. But the next second gradually recovered. They are constantly distorting each other's bodies, and at the same time they are constantly recovering their distorted bodies. Therefore, in the eyes of outsiders, the two of them are like two pools of viscous brush paint, stirred together. White and black completely integrate. You include me, and I include you. How can you shoot? Mr. Greedy Wolf and Taoist have fully integrated. Father, can you do anything? We can only look at Mr. Greedy Wolf, no one can help them. Dad is right, in terms of soul control, only 2 people can do it. Others enter the battlefield, only to be distorted. As a result, the 2 people on the battlefield were like a Tai Chi cloud map. Yin and Yang. White and black. Chaos and order. Constantly entangled, then resumed. And their images are also changing at a speed visible to the naked eye, like snakes, tigers, dinosaurs, toads, octopuses, and lizards. It was like the incomprehensible shock of Cthulhu's appearance when he met Cthulhu for the first time. From Negative emotions +1 +1 +1. You have just mastered this power, do you think you can win me? Zhenren suddenly exploded with strength and pushed Tanlang away. His body returned to human form in the blink of an eye from a pool of rotten flesh. But Tanlang, who was pushed away by him, recovered very hard, as if every time he recovered, he had to expend a lot of strength. Mr. Greedy Wolf. Tony rushed over, wanting to check Tanlang's physical condition. Tanlang regained his hand and waved it, indicating that he was fine. Then he supported the big rock that fell next to him, and his body and thighs gradually recovered. Hee, you're right. In terms of ability, even the two of us can't compare to you. So, unless I am crazy, I will not think of beating you in your best field. I don't need to beat you, I just need this. Tanlang pulled out a scarecrow from his arms. The moment you see the scarecrow, the face of the real person changed instantly. He then quickly touched his body, and the scarecrow in his arms disappeared. You bastard. Gloomy. He instantly figured out why Tanlang wanted to fight him in close quarters even though he knew he couldn't beat him. Because it's not like trying to beat him at all. The scarecrow was exactly the tool he used to attract little King Kong. The reason why he has been sitting firmly on the Diaoyutai. It is because he has something that little King Kong cares about. As long as he holds that thing, little King Kong will automatically come to him. So even if he knew that these guys were delaying time, even if they could recover little King Kong, he didn't care. Because as long as the thing is still in his hands, even if he can't kill little King Kong today, he can kill him tomorrow. But that important thing was taken away, then he is naturally not attractive to little King Kong. Knowing the truth, Tony shouted excitedly, well done. If you were a woman, I would want to kiss you hard. Positive emotions from Tony Stark +500. Tanlang reversed his soul, and his body changed accordingly. A blonde girl in a bright red skirt was being twisted by him. Tony saw that the real person wanted to chase in the direction of Tanlang and wanted to snatch it. Quickly shouted at the others, stop him. And others, even if they don't know what happened. But I also know what to do now. Especially Natasha Romanoff, just after receiving a call from Tony, knowing that the real person has something very important to King Kong. She didn't tell anyone. Just because they are afraid that the news will be leaked. Now, it's time for them to fight back. Ghosts, goblins, go away. Goblins, go away. Jarvis, maximum power generating beam cannon. Sir, your energy is low. Stop talking nonsense, call the maximum power. Whoosh, take turns to attack. The real person could only back up and was forced under the Stark building. With us here, don't even try to get close. You bunch of flies are really annoying. Now, the advantage is on Tony and his party. It is only a matter of time before the real person is defeated. When they were fighting, little King Kong came running angrily from 3 kilometers away. See the blonde transformed by the wolf. His movements were much slower. The original anger has also become gentle. Boom. Iron Man adjusted the power of his energy beam cannon to the maximum output, and the real person was hit hard by the impact and slammed into the pillar of the Stark Industrial Building. When the real person slipped from the stone pillar, his chest was burned and his head file-size wound was slowly healing. Obviously, the magic power in the body of the real person at the moment is not enough. Even the wounds on his body couldn't heal instantly. The blonde girl looked towards the sky, meeting the eyes of the giant orangutan in the sky. Staged the affectionate look between the beauty and the beast. Oh, honey. You've come to save me. Ha. Hanny. Tony heard the voice of the blonde beauty behind him, thinking he heard it wrong. A cannonball almost hit Steve, who was twisted into a sea urchin. Tanlang said in surprise. This beautiful woman seems to be pregnant. It seems that 2 people were saved today, and the family is finally reunited. Family. Tony looked back at the blonde beauty's physique, and the gorilla's physique hundreds of times larger. Like. Not very good, is it? Negative emotions from Tony Stark +5. Positive emotional excitement and gossip from Tony Stark +150. Xiao Yu's eyes lit up. She was very curious. How did they do it? Uncle Long quickly covered Xiao Yu's mouth. Tong Yan Wuji, Tong Yan Wuji. Lower your voice to teach Xiao Yu not to talk nonsense. Tony tried his best to shake out all the lingering images in his mind, then gathered the last energy in the palm of his hand, aimed at the real person. You lost. I advise you to give up resistance. Just when Iron Man was about to give this guy another shot. In the collapsed line at the side, a villain in gold armor suddenly appeared, covered in golden light. You are really a waste, you can't complete such a simple task given to you by Master Dio. Although the real man was depressed, there was no sad expression on his face. Instead, he showed a smile. Don't say that. It's just a little bit of fun, and it's all over. Besides, twisting the little King Kong like this is not the goal in the first place, but killing him is the goal. Dio. It's Dio again. Tony has heard this person's name more than once, and there is his figure behind it all, and the purpose of the real person's words is not to distort the little King Kong, but to kill the little King Kong. Already like this, how can it kill? Does it have other means? Tony suddenly had a bad feeling. That feeling of panic came. It's like standing behind a group of ninjas from the Shadow Legion, holding a knife and pestering him. They didn't win. Real people acted too easily. It doesn't look like the mission failed. Instead, there was still time for a joke. And most importantly, he has said that his purpose is to kill King Kong. Not for transforming into a curse spirit. After transforming into a spell spirit, there is no way to kill it in a conventional way. This conflicts with his purpose. Looking at the expressions of other people, Tony's brain was running wildly. Integrate previously acquired information. The real person didn't lie. His purpose of transforming little King Kong into a curse spirit was not for the arrival of Skull Island, but purely for fun. As for the conditions for the arrival of Skull Island, they ignored the most important point. After thinking about this level, Tony quickly turned his head to look at the little King Kong behind him. How will little King Kong die? They worked hard and desperately to restore the little King Kong to a normal state. In fact, it made King Kong even more vulnerable. Danger. Very dangerous. Little King Kong is in a very dangerous situation. No one else seems to have anticipated this. Fear from Tony Stark plus 1000. No one realized that he had pushed little King Kong into a trap. Negative emotion fear plus 1200 from Tony Stark. Tony opened his helmet and looked at the real person suddenly. What the hell did you do? Others looked puzzled when they saw the angry Tony. Tony? What's wrong? What do you see? Tony, we've managed to contain him and it's over. The real person sat slumped on the ground, showing a relaxed smile. It's over? Really? Now do you still have the strength to stop what happened next? The words of the real person make everyone puzzled. But S.H.I.E.L.D.'s satellites detected some unusual signals. S.H.I.E.L.D. The originally calm interface suddenly sounded an alarm. Warning. Warning. Please evacuate immediately. What happened? Before Hill Agent had time to take a break, he saw warning sounds all over the screen. That red flag almost overflowed the screen. The military. It's the military's actions. The agent quickly called out the signal source of the alarm. Through satellites, more than a dozen Tomahawk missiles were locked. And there are 2 B-2 bombers, loaded with megaton TNT-level bombs, flying towards New York. See here. Nick Fury can't sit still, he stood up with a bang. Mom F***K. Negative emotion anger plus 500 from Nick Fury. Negative emotions from Hill Agent plus 250, from. Thousands of calculations did not take into account the military's interference with the operation. When facing a guerrilla for the first time, the military conducted a wave of bombing with Tomahawk missiles and bombers. But because the guerrilla was transformed into a magic spirit, it was not killed. They saw the military bombers returning and thought the military had given up the bombing. But unexpectedly, they prepared a second wave of bombers with larger bomb loads for large-scale bombing. Get General Rob for me. Quick, quick. Nick Fury's eyes are almost glued to the screen. Seeing the bomber on the screen approaching New York quickly, he hated why the plane flew so fast for the first time. Military. Combat Command Room. General Rob, S.H.I.E.L.D. is calling. Bye. Rob stared at the military satellite with a sullen face. At a critical juncture of the battle, there's no time to chat with anyone, let alone the S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick who stopped bombing him earlier. A small organization is not a president in the White House, let alone his immediate boss. Still want to command him? The bombs loaded this time are quite sufficient. Can blow up several blocks. With a bombing of this scale, not to mention destroying that monster, even a bigger one would be destroyed as well. The military has noticed before that guerrillas can be hurt before they transform. Just kill him before he transforms. Solve the crisis in New York. So, don't miss this opportunity. If the army wants to win, it must grasp the timing. Big guy, let you taste the power of human beings. After Natasha Romanoff and Tony and Hawkeye all received messages from S.H.I.E.L.D. Suddenly dumbfounded. What's the situation? Seeing that the problem is about to be solved, the result. Air defense sirens sounded. Tony looked at clusters of flames that were less than 10 kilometers away. They arrive in the blink of an eye. Jarvis, any energy interceptor missiles left? Sir, the energy can no longer support the interception. Sir, the energy can no longer support the interception. Jarvis is also nearly depleted of energy. The sound is getting smaller and smaller. Tony had used too many power uses before, and now the power source in his chest was dry. And the ability copied by Greedy Wolf is almost consumed. He has no way to use the only ability, because once it is used, it will destroy all life around it. That's an aggressive ability. Little King Kong heard the voice and looked behind him. Turning his head slowly, staring at the blonde girl with both eyes, he curled up and knelt on the ground, holding the blonde girl in the red skirt in his arms and protecting her under her body. Then he nodded to Greedy Wolf and them, signaling them to hide under his body. The meaning of Little King Kong. In an instant, all of them understood what Little King Kong meant. This kind gorilla decided to sacrifice himself to protect them. For a moment, complex emotions began to integrate and sublimate, and coalesce into a larger emotional throb. Positive emotions from Hawkeye plus 2000. Positive emotions from Tony Stark plus 3000. Positive emotions from Natasha Romanoff plus 500. Positive emotions from Nick Fury plus 200. Positive emotions from Hill Agent plus 1000. From Positive emotions plus 10. From Positive emotions plus 10. At this moment, Little King Kong decided to sacrifice his behavior, which made everyone's emotions tremble. Quickly hide under Little King Kong. Don't let Little King Kong's efforts go to waste. Tony suppressed the grief in his heart and waved his hands. 500 meters away, the falling bombs looked like black rainwater. After falling, a mushroom cloud of orange and red exploded on the ground. Boom, 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 boom. The explosion is getting louder and louder. At the end, an explosion sounded above their heads. They only saw that Little King Kong was completely curled up, completely blocking the surrounding light. Besides, they can no longer hear any sound. Can't see any light. Tony wobbled. Feeling dizzy like hypoglycemia. Negative emotions from Tony Stark plus 1000. The second floor of the jewelry store. Looking out the window, it seems that I can feel the aftermath of the explosion. Although they are all in New York, they are more than 100 kilometers away from him. Hey, what a pig teammate. The military was not arranged by him, it was completely decided by those guys. However, it can be regarded as indirectly achieving the goal. It's a pity that this wave was going to harvest a big one, but it was not completed. There are still 1,500 creation crystals left, which is still not enough to create a complete Skull Island. However, some things on Skull Island can kick off some preludes. Let Godzilla go first. Let's try a small one first. Lin Tian unfolded it casually. World, reveal the truth for you. And Lin Tian was clearly sitting in the jewelry store on the second floor, but no one saw him. Even if someone passes by, he will even subconsciously ignore his store. Tony, how are you? Tony staggered, feeling like he couldn't hear other people's voices in his ears. Someone was talking, but he couldn't hear it. All he wanted to know now was how Little King Kong was doing. They have worked so hard for so long, isn't it just to save Little King Kong? In the end, they were saved by Little King Kong. Tony staggered around, the surrounding sounds gradually reaching his ears. Uncle Along, Xiao Yu, Dad and his party. Father, are you okay? Aaron, thanks to Little King Kong this time, Xiao Yu is right. Xiao Yu, Uncle Long, I'm fine. Hawkeye, Greedy Wolf. Mr. Greedy Wolf, are you alright? Where's the blonde woman? Tony followed the line of sight of the two of them and looked to the side. The woman was weeping while touching Little King Kong's thigh. Apparently the explosion outside did not affect those inside. Sir, the energy has been exhausted, the system will be shut down, please leave the cockpit. Sir, the energy has been exhausted, the system will shut down. Jarvis kept warning Tony that if there was no energy source in the cockpit, Tony would be carrying hundreds of caddies of weight, which would crush him. There are no more explosions outside. Listening to the disappearing sound outside, yes, the explosion sound is gone, but at the same time, Little King Kong is also gone. Those monsters from Skull Island are coming. Nobody knew what was going to happen. Iron Man Tony left the cockpit and walked towards the only place with a glimmer of light outside. He wants to see the outside world. Rumble. He heard the sound of the New York ground being torn apart. He heard the earth screaming in pain. He heard the cries for help. From negative emotions plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. From negative emotions plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. From these negativity reverberates constantly in the sky. Buzz. Shield. Tricurve wing building, meeting room. Images captured by satellites are played on several glass lenses. In the place after the bombing, thick smoke billowed straight into the sky. The cloud formed was like the evil spirit exhaled by the skeleton after it showed a cruel smile. Subsequently, everything in the picture began to crumble. At the outline of the skeleton, it began to collapse. Then golden red light particles like magma are sputtered in those gaps. Straight to the sky. The mouth of the skeleton is darker in color, as if it is roaring at the entire universe. The skeleton gives people the illusion that it is not just a picture, but even has a life. Immediately afterwards, a coolness surged up, as if the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped to a few degrees below zero. It made people laugh, and gave a chill. A stream of black air spit out from the devil's mouth, and then flew towards all parts of the world. 2 of the regiments landed in New York. Look, those black aura. Hill agent saw those black auras that seemed to have an evil aura rushing to all over the world, and quickly asked someone to take a screenshot of their appearance. But it's too vague. Can't see what they are at all. Just know that they flew to different places. Investigate the landing sites of all black auras, and make sure that the black auras at each location are paid attention to. There are more than 100 of these black auras, and we probably don't have enough manpower. But now they can only solve the current crisis. Then only monitor the part that can be monitored. Hill agent can only issue this order. At the moment Hill and Nick have their sights set entirely on New York. Because 2 groups of black aura landed over New York. This is where they have been monitoring, and this is their main monitoring target. Kamar Taj. Strange, who was studying with a teacher, suddenly felt a chill behind him. It was as if a piece of ice had touched his body. It was colder than the weather outside. The cold body couldn't help shivering. The ancient one in front of him is rescuing a woman. Remind her of the precautions. But in the next second, like Strange, she also felt that coolness. What's this? Unlike Strange, she is curious about this power. As Supreme Mage, she has seen too much power. Even once saw the great eternal great God power. But none of this power is greater, more detached. Not dimensional power, beyond dimensions, beyond everything. Incomprehensible, incredible. Shock, Ancient One's heart was extremely shaken. Why has she never seen or heard of this kind of power? Ancient One wants to try to explore. Want to explore the source of power. But in the next second, she felt as if her soul had been severely wounded. An incomprehensible force prevented her from approaching. Just getting a little closer made her soul almost disintegrate. This shocked her even more. She is the Supreme Mage, the #1 mage in the 9 realms, even she cannot directly watch it. Mage, you seem to have a nosebleed. Ancient One touched his nose. Blood. This is the blood of the common people. Seems like a small punishment from that source. Make her body briefly a common. Negative emotions from Ancient One +1000. And in New York, Iron Man walked out from under King Kong. In front of my eyes, it has been completely reduced to ruins. Under the dusty sky the sight is the ruins. Groups of flames were crackling and burning, and the stench of burning was desperately drilled into his nose. Behind them was the huge monster protecting them. Look back. Even the bones were broken. The pale spine was raised, revealing the grizzled white skin and the burning smell mixed with the stench. Little King Kong is dead. The dead can no longer die. Perhaps, each of them is the murderer who killed Little King Kong. Jarvis, contact Pepper. Jarvis. Jarvis has run out of energy and fell into a deep sleep. The other people who crawled out from below looked at the Little King Kong in front of them. One by one became extremely decadent. Unexpectedly, they worked hard for a long time, but they pushed Little King Kong to death again. Perhaps they shouldn't have turned Donkey Kong back. But Donkey Kong will destroy New York if Donkey Kong is not transformed back. No matter what they do, they lose. Think here. It's no wonder why the real people have always behaved in a mediocre way, and didn't take the initiative to target them, because they were playing with them, and they were playing. Regardless of whether Little King Kong returns unchanged, for others, the ending is doomed. Po Jun was helped over by George Stacy and others. There are several curse seeds hanging on his body. Fortunately, Tanlang can reabsorb Wayu's ability through the seeds. Although it takes an hour before it can be used, it can only wait for an hour now. Iron Man turned to ask Dad. Pop knew the most about these things. Little King Kong is dead now. What they can do is to minimize the difficulty of subsequent crises. Father, what should we do now? Dad stroked his chin, thinking seriously. The most troublesome thing now is the coming of the magic energy, and the coming of the rule. I just used magic to find 2 sources of the magic energy nearby. The faster the magic energy recovers, the weaker the monster's strength is, and the slower it recovers, the more they will die. The more frightening it is, you still hope that these 2 demonic energy will recover as soon as possible. Fortunately, the 2 demonic energy here in New York are not strong. Demon energy. When Iron Man came out, he saw several black aura rushing out of the ground, rushing towards all parts of the world. Maybe that's what the old man was talking about. He can't imagine. With so much magic energy, how many terrifying monsters will be born? But Daddy said those things would be scary. That's absolutely terrible. After all, Dad didn't even feel afraid in the face of a real person who could modify the soul. Greedy Wolf came up and asked Dad like Iron Man. But, Dad, what is the rule that you said came down? Rule. Hearing this question, Dad fell silent. Sighed. Only then did he speak slowly. Rule, just like a real person with spells, when it touches you, it can distort your soul and keep your soul in its distorted state, which cannot be reversed, unless you use his power to reverse things back. No other force can produce an effect. This is called a rule. For example, I took a look at you, but the rule is that if I see you, you will die. No matter what ability you have, you will be killed. Dad's words are creepy. If you look at it, you will be killed by the rule. Then how to play? Is it too domineering? Negative emotions from Tony Stark plus 300, negative emotions from Natasha Romanoff plus 300. Negative emotions from Hawkeye plus 150. Father then went on to say slowly, and this kind of rule can't be killed under normal circumstances, and can only be suppressed by a higher rule. If you really encounter it, then ask yourself for blessings. I hope you don't touch their killing rule. Iron Man's scalp tingled when he heard it. However, he still noticed what his father said, and there are two important points that cannot be killed. Dad. What do you mean by them? What do you mean? And they can't be killed? Are they life? Dad nodded. That's right. However, you can understand them as ghosts, or some kind of ghosts. In the bodies of these ghosts and ghosts, there are those rules. Military, combat labs. Rob looked at the footage captured by the drone. Under the bombing of the B-2 bomber, the monster was successfully destroyed before it transformed. The gorilla is dead. A big hole was blasted in the back. Half of his pale bones were exposed. Good job. There was a smile on Rob's face. Switch teams, act. On the streets of New York, a fully armed military mechanized troop equipped with at least 300 weapons dived forward. Among them is the War Machine, Iron Man's familiar friend, and Steve's friend Falcon. On their way forward, some people's distressed cries for help can be heard everywhere. Help! 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 Rob stared at the screen, frowning. Under the illumination of the light, they saw a stone pillar blocking the front. It is not appropriate to say that it is a stone pillar. Because judging from the appearance of the other party, it looks like a doll with short hands and short feet made of reinforced concrete, and the round head is sprayed with weird paint to make its expression. War Machine said strangely. What is that? Why are there pillars on the road? When Rob saw it, he quickly ordered, move it away. Just when Rob gave the order, a voice came to the ears of all the soldiers. I advise you to keep more than 2 people staring at it. Some soldiers subconsciously turned their eyes to the speaker, and in the next second, countless screams came from the camera. Then the camera moved to the monster's head again. Dozens of soldiers in front of them all had their necks broken, and all died tragically, falling to the ground. As for the concrete pillar that was tens of meters away, at the moment is less than half a meter away from Falcon. That terrifying height, and the bloody smile on his face seemed to be mocking him. Negative emotional fear from Falcon plus 500, negative emotions from War Machine plus 100. I told you to stare at him, but you won't listen. And I want to tell you one more thing, that is, don't blink. As long as there is no one staring at it for a moment, it will kill you. It's the rule, even the rule I can't change, so I keep my eyes on it. Now you guys are here, thanks, I can leave. Rob was terrified. What kind of monster is this? By the way, my name is Kishibe Luhan, and I'm a manga artist. Cartoonist? What cartoonist? Is such a calm person really a cartoonist? And had this guy been here staring at this monster before they arrived? Wait. Don't go. Clarify things. Falcon wanted to call someone over. But the footsteps became faster. As if finally getting rid of the trouble, he started to run wildly. Damn it. Think of us as scapegoats, but now he dared not blink. Not even daring to look away for a moment, not even subconsciously glancing at the cartoonist from the corner of his eye. Because this monster is only half a meter away from him. With a height of 2.5 meters, the other party just looked down at him. Obviously, it looks like a tightly wrapped adult toy from a long distance, but when you get close, it feels like the other person's face is alive. Sober, sane, Falcon, stay sane. Falcon kept admonishing himself. Then I thought of a way. War Machine, and you, keep an eye on him, even if you blink, report in advance. Yes. 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 Listen to the voice of the soldiers behind you. Falcon breathed a sigh of relief. If it was a common man, he wouldn't dare to hand his back over to those people. But these are not common people, these are military men. Then, he can trust the other party. And there only needs to be one person staring at him, there are at least 100 of them. Falcon moved back slowly, for fear of disturbing the monster in front of him. But it is also strange. The monster that just killed so many soldiers, at the moment is like a dead thing, lifeless. It was as if everything that had just happened was an illusion. But it was this feeling that made him palpitate even more. This thing is too disguised. Without being reminded, no one will realize how terrifying this thing is. Wait until I give the order, then attack. Falcon doesn't believe anything, just stare at him and you'll be fine. He still has work to do. Can't keep looking at each other. Therefore, in the face of such ghosts and monsters, he chose to clean up with hot weapons. Thermal weapons doesn't believe in carbon-based life. And he didn't believe it anymore. Could a peanut man made of concrete turn upside down? After retreating to a safe distance, Falcon glimpsed out of the corner of his eye the green-haired man in a white suit who claimed to be a cartoonist and had almost disappeared. Fuck. This guy really used them as cannon fodder. However, the other party is not bad, at least it reminded them of the other party's weakness. Feeling that the distance is almost there, Falcon held his breath, then gave the order in a deep voice. Shot, da-da. The sudden flash of gun flames in the night made people close their eyes subconsciously. And this subconscious action of his own immediately alerted Falcon. He just made a serious mistake. I forgot that the firelight produced by the gun will interfere with the line of sight and cause a momentary inability to lock the target. Falcon's adrenaline surged, and a rush of blood rushed to his brain. It made him feel bad immediately. Sure enough, the peanut man disappeared. Disappeared directly in front of them. When they reappeared, they only heard a sound. Boom. A body fell in the dark. The peanut man's speed made the others flustered. Don't run. Everyone don't run. Find the target, lock it. Falcon quickly cast his gaze to cover everything around him. As long as one person notices the peanut man, they can keep the other person still. Now eyes are their greatest weapon. Stare. Stare. Stare, 30 degrees counterclockwise to the east. A group of soldiers looked in the direction of Peanut Man. Peanut stop. Still, and the Peanut Man's hand has already touched the next target. If not in time to stop, I'm afraid another soldier is going to die. There are lessons learned from others. This time, no one dared to move. They all stared at the Peanut Man. They have all seen the price just now. Although the Peanut Man was shot, it didn't leave the slightest wound on the Peanut Man. Their guns can't hurt peanuts. Although they don't know if the more powerful artillery fire can kill them, they dare not try it lightly. Sweat dripped from Falcon's temples, and his back was wet. The bravest and most heroic Special Operations Forces. Today, however, I was stopped by a strange peanut man, who dared not move. Negative emotion from Falcon plus 50, negative emotions from plus 3. Negative emotions from plus 2. This is really a sarcastic joke. This kind of opponent is completely different from the previous ones. Without flesh and blood, there is no way to deal with it, so you can only stand in a stalemate with the other party. And Rob, who has been watching the video, has a gloomy face. Fuck. Fuck. How could such a monster appear? What happened in New York? Just when Rob had a headache. The subordinate said to him again, General Rob, SHIELD director is looking for you. Again? This time Rob didn't refuse to answer the phone. Because of this kind of trouble that cannot be solved, you may need the help of a special handling organization like SHIELD. It's just that Rob is bitter about SHIELD's interruption. Hear Rob pick up the phone. Nick Fury tried to calm his anger. Tell yourself he doesn't know, he doesn't know. Those who don't know are fearless. Negative emotions from Nick Fury plus 17 plus 16 plus 15 plus 14. Say something quickly. I don't have time to argue with you now. As soon as Rob's words were spoken, Nick Fury's blood pressure went up. Negative emotions from Nick Fury plus 40 plus 45 plus 50 plus 55. Damn fuck. Do you know how much trouble you have caused? Rob, what happened in New York? You were responsible for it. Responsible? Rob frowned as he listened to rage from SHIELD. I already told you to stop the bombing. We SHIELD can solve the problem. Why didn't you answer my call? Now do you know what kind of monster you released? Rob was also an unyielding lord, and he said righteously, I just followed the orders of the White House. The order to bomb was given by the White House, and I'm just a soldier. Mom F***K. Nick Fury couldn't bear it anymore, and spat out a mouthful of swear words. A bunch of idiots. Pig teammates. Taking a dog is better than taking you. Dogs know that lying down wins. You bastards, scum. Definitely, Nick Fury just cursed those. Negative emotions from Nick Fury plus 100. Negative emotions from Nick Fury plus 100. Negative emotions from Nick Fury plus 100. From Nick. After Rob heard what Nick Fury said. immediately understood what a big disaster they had caused. Originally S.H.I.E.L.D. had already taken control of the scene. Just send little King Kong back, it's over, it's alright. As a result, they had to get involved. With their friendly help, destroy the little monsters that invaded New York. Successfully undermined the efforts of those people. It even killed more than half of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Not to mention civilians, not counted, and now. He also finally knew where the monster facing the team in front of him came from. They made it themselves. General Robb would not dare to report to Secretary of State Ross and others. Once they find out, even if their skin is not stripped off, they will have to be demoted. After all, those decision-makers will not pay for their own decisions. And as the actors of the order, they will inevitably take the blame for them first. You have to find a way to throw the pot out first. Is there a way to deal with this monster? I don't know. You'd better pray for a solution, and you'd better pray that there's only one rule creature in New York. Negative emotions from Nick Fury +70 +69 +68. After Nick Fury scolded the other party from the bottom of his heart. Visibly less emotional. It's just that he doesn't want to cooperate with the military in his life. So King stupid. Don't be afraid of opponents like gods, but teammates like pigs. It's people like Robb. But he also knew that a person like Robb was a thug pushed out from above. If things are done well, it is because of their leadership. If things are not done well, it is because they are greedy for merit. After retracting the line of sight, Nick Fury focused on investigating Black Aura. After all, Dad said it. The Black Aura descends, the faster one wakes up, the weaker one's strength is, and the slower one wakes up, the stronger one's strength. He definitely hoped that the monster would wake up immediately. Only in this way can the monster's strength be weak. Easy to deal with. Under Stark's industrial building. The ground shaking became more and more intense. Under their feet, a torrent surged. Every now and then the ground is lifted. We have to get out of here quickly. It's not safe here. Iron Man looked at the building. Although it was built to prevent nuclear bombs, Pepper was still inside the building. Feeling the vibrations of the ground, the underground Asgardians will come out at any moment. The defense that can prevent nuclear bombs does not mean that it can stop the wrath of Asgardians. The Asgardian he had seen in his vision was too tall. What kind of damage will be caused if such a big mountain falls down? He dare not bet. Tony rushed towards the collapsed Stark building, which contained not only Pepper, but also a backup energy source. As long as he has a backup power source, he can still reawaken the Iron Man battlesuit. So Tony only brought one arm part. Hey Tony, what are you up to? Save people. Now the building is about to collapse, do you want to die? You guys leave, don't worry about me. Just as Tony rushed in, figures of huge amounts of appeared outside the surrounding red and gold light particles. Through the light curtain, they could barely see the tall titans. Some of the titans at the front are only 3 or 4 meters high. But the titan following behind is 7 or 8 meters high. Their eyes were blank, their bodies were naked, and they staggered towards them. And there are some corpses on the ground that seem to have been roasted. A scalding heat began to appear, evaporating. Titan. Why is there a titan? As far as the eye can see, dozens of titans are walking towards them. A medium-sized titan with a fat belly, as if it saw something delicious, its speed increased dramatically, its eyes widened and almost popped out of its sockets. Grabs a survivor abruptly, then grabs the victim's foot and puts it in his mouth. Pop, click, click. Even from a distance, they could hear those titans chewing. And around, new titans are constantly appearing. Tony naturally saw those titans too. The original Asgardian crisis was pressing enough for him. Now there are man-eating titans around. But now he can only bite the bullet and rush towards the Stark building. It was impossible for him to let Pepper go. One by one, the titans grabbed the corpses on the ground, swallowed them alive, and then looked at the next target, as if their stomachs were always hungry. There are too many titans, and few living people can eat them. So they were targeted. Because of the influence of Skull Island, human beings will undergo various changes. Now we must leave quickly, I don't know how many titans will be here. Seeing Tony breaking into the collapsed Stark building alone, Uncle Long quickly threw Xiao Yu to Dad. Daddy, I'll help him. Uncle Long, be careful. Xiao Yu shouted at Uncle Long. After Tony saw the titan, he rushed directly into the Stark building. And the only stairway leading to the second floor was blocked by stones, and the door was twisted and wrinkled, making it impossible to push it open at all. He tried to open the door to the stairs that was squeezed open in front of him. But his strength is not enough. Without the battlesuit, he finds himself nothing, unable to even open a door. Negative emotions from Tony Stark +200, FAQ. Negative emotions from Tony Stark plus 200, F asterisk K, F asterisk K, F asterisk K. Tony angrily smashed on the iron door with its folding fan motionless. If he has enough energy, he can fly up. If he has enough strength, he can push the door open. If. It's a pity that there is no if. He has no energy now, and he doesn't have enough strength. Now Xiaojiao is waiting for rescue on the top. He has no battlesuit and can't even save a woman. Negative emotions from Tony Stark plus 1000. Tony exhausted all his strength, but the door still didn't budge. Hearing the sound of clattering upstairs and the continuous peeling of the wallskin, the sweat on his forehead almost fell. And the Titan outside the door approached, after hearing the noise he made. A head with huge amounts of lying on the ground, big, empty eyes staring at Tony's back, mucus dripping from his mouth. Hee hee. Hee hee. Tony pried the door forcefully with an iron bar. Almost. The Titan from behind started scratching his back. Almost when that hand was about to touch his waist. A missile exploded on the Titan, and Tony felt the door suddenly slam faster. Uncle Long next to him had a classic smile. Hey, don't be in a daze, keep pushing. And Dad. We're here too, you. Seeing that these people are willing to take risks with him to save lives. The strength in Tony's body increased a little. Thank you. You are my forever friends. Positive emotions from Tony Stark plus 1000. And in the sky outside, an angel-like figure appeared in the sky. Pink wings, Pink's long hair, and a ring of cannons around her. Target locked, attack. Pop went up to the second floor. Look through the broken window to the angel in the sky with pink wings and a huge halo above his head. She was the one who saved us just now. It seems that our luck is good, because Skull Island is alive, and the magic energy has increased. In order to balance the magic energy, an ancient hero was awakened. Heroes from ancient times? Then are we safe? What are you thinking? The stronger the recovered hero, the more terrifying the crisis we are facing. The others listened to their father's words and looked outside. I want to see the person in the sky more clearly. Immediately afterwards, a huge amounts of face approached the window. Wandering eyes led everyone startled. Oops. Fact. Negative emotions from +15. Negative emotions from +15. The old man hurriedly took a few steps back, away from that big face, scared the old man to death. The others also followed Dad back, all the way to the stairs on the second floor. Hawkeye drew a common arrow and shot it into the Titan's eye. Whoosh, an arrow pierced the Titan's eye hard. Knocked the Titan's back. Tony and Uncle Long from at the moment are almost halfway through the climb. Now the Titan strikes. It's not safe to hide outside. Dad turned around and counted the number of people, except for the few who had been fighting before. There are a few more policemen around, but only one person was missing. Dad looked at the others. By the way, have any of you seen the blonde? Before, everyone's attention was focused on other people, and they didn't notice the blonde girl at all. After Dad reminded them, others remembered that there was another one of her. The blonde? Everyone glanced at each other. It seems that there is no impression. Only Hawkeye and Natasha Romanoff were more impressive. She was crying at the time, and when Natasha Romanoff went up to comfort her, she said she wanted to calm down. So Natasha Romanoff followed the others out, after seeing the devastated scene outside. She just forgot about the blonde. Now think of it. She should still be under that corpse. We must save her, Tanlang said suddenly. His words made everyone look at him. You also know that when I restored her, I saw her soul, and there was a small soul wrapped in her soul. You mean? Both Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye looked at him oddly. At that time Tanlang said that the other party was a family. They thought Tanlang was joking. When Tanlang talked about this matter again, the others all looked at him with the expression of an old man looking at his phone in the subway. Are you sure you didn't make a mistake when you modified your soul? Greedy Wolf coughed. I'm just saying that she will give birth at any time, and it's dangerous for us to leave her alone. We won't let a pregnant woman wait there to die, right? Po Jun gritted his teeth. I still have some strength, I'll go and rescue her. But the curse seeds on Po Jun's body have not been lifted, including the curse seeds on those policemen. Although Po Jun is the only person with a special ability, he can't guarantee that he can save that woman before he is drained by the curse. Obviously it is not appropriate to go to Po Jun. But Greedy Wolf's 2 skills were cooling down, and he didn't dare to use the only instant kill skill. Dad wants to look at Xiao Yu. Let me come. Hawkeye grabbed the bow, but Natasha Romanoff held down his hand. Forget it. Let me go. If she's going to give birth at any moment, you're not a good fit to be there. As an agent, Natasha Romanoff knows almost all skills, including delivery. This is also one of the things I have learned. Okay, I'll help you cover. Boom, boom. Several explosions made the whole house shake violently. Outside world, Queen of the Sky, I Carlos. As a strategic universal robot. Said to be a robot, more like an artificial human. Ice Carlos battlesuit is mainly silver and white, with black patterns attached. The upper body wears a costume similar to a modified corset with winged pendants at the bottom, and the lower body wears a pleated skirt with light blue knee socks. The shoulders, arms, and legs are equipped with armor. The body of Ice Carlos completely simulates the characteristics of creatures, but the combat system of the space compression device is implanted in the body. Before evolution, using Artemis, permanent rear tracking air-to-air missiles, one is comparable to the power of a 100,000-ton TNT bomb on a B-2 bomber. So when Ice Carlos faced these titans, he was completely crushed. Whoosh, whoosh, a few rear-facing air-to-air missiles of the size of a thumb shot towards the ground. Boom, boom, a wave of explosions sounded. The explosion formed huge amounts of flame halo, like the light purifying the world, instantly engulfing all the titans within hundreds of meters. They didn't even have a chance to run away, instantly evaporated. Shield. Looking at Ice Carlos, who kept flickering and disappearing in the screen. Only when she stays, can her movement track be captured. Its information is then documented. No information about her can be found. Sure enough, I can't find it. Although Nick was prepared in his heart, he couldn't accept it when he heard that the information about this person could not be found. Is their shield such a waste? Can't find any information? Shield also needs to save face. Hill agent said to Nick, there is news from Natasha Romanoff that this may be a helper in recovery. We're calculating her average speed and power level. According to Natasha Romanoff, the stronger the recovery, the bigger the crisis we are facing right now. The crushing power she's showing now means it's not about balancing these titans. Instead, Hill agent's words stopped here. An agent suddenly stood up, took the materials and said, Captain Hill, we have initially calculated her speed and combat level. Hill nodded, say. After our calculations, when she moves, she can reach Mach 24, which is equivalent to 29,000 kilometers per hour. If it is converted into seconds, it is 8 kilometers per second. 8,000. Nick and Hill looked at the agent. Did you calculate correctly? You can't make a mistake. We used ultra-high satellite shooting, 240 frames per second, too. Nick and Hill's faces darkened when they heard this. You must know that the speed of sound is only 340 meters per second. And this revived hero reaches 20 times the speed of sound. As long as she wants to, there is currently no missile on this planet to catch up with her. And her combat strength, just a few anti-air missiles, destroyed dozens of titans. What is the purpose of this kind of combat power to deal with it? Just when the two were thinking, one agent yelled, Shark! Shark! Sharks on the ground?